Awesome, awesome. Uh, so yeah, you've obviously announced it's public Barcelona squash off. So
Yes,
excited.
Barcelona Spain Squash Off, second edition, second edition. This is our second time coming there. Notice how we did such great, had such a great time, warm welcome there, and everything. Great host and everything that we decided to come back and everything. Of course, then we have a really amazing host this time, Cincy Seeds and
Mm,
their new social lounge. I mean,
mm,
Cincy Seeds been around since 1985, bringing the awesome, a lot of great genetics out there and everything. And now they're getting into the social game, the social lounge game, which I think is awesome, especially in Spain. I think people definitely should come check out their club, once it opens. So,
hundred
yeah.
percent, 100%. I was going to say, I don't know, I might have to cut this out. I don't know. When's this airing before? I got a message actually from Sensi Seeds not that long ago before we started recording, getting an invite for another event they're doing on the 15th.
Yeah, yes,
The
yes. There you
Breeders.
go. Yeah, Breeders' Cup, the Breeders' breeding ground, Breeders' Ground. Yes, the party.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, they're having a party. Yes, invite only, a VIP party. Awesome. I'm glad that you're invited to this.
I'm guessing that was partially down to yourself in some way, or somehow of your invite as well. It's nice to be recognized and to have some places to go on the evenings because it's a very busy week in Barcelona over Spannabis.
It's extremely busy. I mean, it wasn't like this, last year. I mean, there's more events than there was last year. And then when I first attended Spannabis, which was I mean, it was, I believe, the third Spannabis. Me and Brett Bogue and a few other people, we did a filming there and interviewing everybody, and it was at the Olympic Coliseum at that time.
Mhm.
And it was a lot smaller. I mean, not that many, not like it is today. And how much it has blossomed and what it has turned into today, where all
Mhm.
these other people come in and do events around it, centered around it, and just
Mhm.
get you all geared up for Spannabis. It's awesome. And I'm honored to be a part of that, one of those events that are part of the Spannabis week.
Mhm.
Week.
Excellent. Well, we'll leave you to your dab currently. I'll do a bit of introduction with the fine
Okay.
folk at home. So yeah, I do hope you guys are having a good week. It does feel like a long week since last week. We've had some quite interesting things happen in the world. Obviously, Germany does seem to be moving forward massively. There is, I'm not going to say 100%. I'm not going to report the same way the vast majority of the other media have. It's not a certainty yet. There is still slightly one hiccup that could happen in the Bundestag, which is the upper house could be pricks. There could be unprecedented parliamentary procedures pulled, which would lead to this not, coming into effect on April 1st. So yeah, don't count your chickens just yet. Get your eggs ready and your hatches and your hatcheries, whatever the hell it is you call your cows, your chickens in. But don't be don't be overly confident just yet. We've seen weirder things in European politics, and we've definitely seen weirder things in German politics. So yeah, like I said, hope you've had a wonderful week, folks. Hope you had a fun Valentine's Day, whatever you got up to. Hope that you have love within your heart and within your lives. If not, we're going to provide some entertainment at least for the next couple of hours for you, fine folks. Yeah, today's guest is relevant to the fact, obviously, Spannabis is right around the corner. I hope you're getting excited for it, folks. Yeah, hope you have the ability and the time to get out to Spain because there's going to be some wonderful things going down, some great events. There's going to be some great people from around the global cannabis scene, yeah, showing their wares and putting in a bit of FaceTime, as they say. So yeah, hope to see many friendly faces out in Spain in a couple of weeks. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into today's guest, who is a medical cannabis patient, US military veteran, a seed breeder, cannabis activist, educator, and founder of the Squash Off events. As you may have well just heard there, coming to Barcelona in a couple of weeks. They are everybody's favorite stoner uncle. They are Bobby West. How are you doing?
Hey, Bless, how you doing, brother? Blessings, blessings.
I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
good.
great to be on your show. I see that you've had a lot of awesome people on your show. Matter of fact, Captain Hooter wanted me to give a shout out, say hi to you from
I
him,
appreciate
send
it.
love and everything. So, hello from Hooter.
Lush, lush. Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying to put together an excuse to get out to Amsterdam soon. Because he wants to.
Oh no, he's gonna be in Spain. He'll be in Spain. You're
I'm,
coming to Spain, aren't you?
oh yeah, I'm coming to Spain. I'll
You'll see him in Spain. He's one of my judges. So, you'll see
Ah,
him in Spain too. Yeah, no, he's one of the
nice.
squash off judges. So, which we got
Hmm.
a great list of judges for the squash off as well. So, you
I'm
know,
looking forward to it. I think quite a lot of them, as you say, have probably been previous guests, and I'm hoping other ones will be future guests. I'm thinking
there
James
you go.
Loud there. I think he'd make quite a good podcast guest. So
Oh, he would. He would. Yeah, he's great. Besides being a great breeder, he's an amazing chef too. I
yeah.
mean, when I met him, I think 2000. It was either I think 2009 or 10 at a cup, and we became friends. I actually talked him into doing the Sacramento Hemp Fest with me, a booth. He got a booth there and everything. That's where he got it. And then from there, talked to him. He didn't want to enter the cup at
Hmm.
high times back then. I'm like, dude, you're loud. Has to be. Sure enough, he entered and he won. So
Hmm.
yeah, great. Yeah, he's one of our judges. Surge Cannabis, Mila, of course, the Hash Queen,
Nice.
uh, Scott Reach from Rare Dankness.
Great.
Old school. Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and there's a few other people. I couldn't put all the names on the poster. The poster to be covered. No, we have
Yeah.
I think 10 judges. We have Amy Fisher as well, the traveling hip museum. She's old school activist and everything from California. She's one of the judges as well and everything. So yeah, we're excited. And as I said, I think I'm not sure if we mentioned it here or before we started recording about it's at you know, Cincy Seeds has been around since 1985. They brought some
Hmm.
amazing genetics to the world,
Hmm.
amazing genetics. Well, now they're bringing an amazing social club to Spain. So
Hmm.
they now have a new social club that'll be opening, and we are the first event that's going to be happening there at the Cincy Seeds new social lounge. I'm real excited about that too. They're really great. They're a great company, good people there. I know the family and all and the staff, which a lot of the staff have been there forever. I mean, that's the thing is the same staff has been there since I started going.
Hmm.
So a lot of percent of them. So it's a good company, and I'm glad that we became friends and we partnered up. They've agreed to host us and everything.
That's
So
lush. That's yeah, that's wonderful. I've got similar sort of again respect for Sensi because a lot of I don't want to offend anybody by saying like hype genetics, but a lot of the modern genetics that we've ended up with now came from companies like Sensi at a time when the world was trying to destroy cannabis globally. It wasn't this green rush we see today.
yeah,
It protected a lot of the legacy genetics. The bridge from the past to the future is through companies like Sensi Seed. So to see
yeah,
them
a
kind of
lot of the old school genetics that these guys use as founding basis for their new school twangs and stuff like that. Yes, yeah, since he's one of them, yeah, to them and Hank, and then yeah, Merchant Marine Bill, old Bill, I think his name was. I forget, but he was old Merchant Marine. He used to travel around the world and got all these different genetics, and his sons once they got to age, they started smoking his weed and they, I think, met Ed Rosenthal, and he's like, "Wow, this is great weed." And they talked. Said, "Well, with my father grew it, and they brought him over to Europe, and that's when I think Ben met him too, and he brought a few different genetics into the scene as well." And so
yeah.
it's just amazing the history through this cannabis plant and what, yeah, Cincy Seeds has tied into it, and Europe and Spain, everybody. I mean, there's
Mhm.
so many branches that this plant has reached throughout this world. I guess I
Hundred,
just say, I guess.
yeah, 100%. But like a mycorrhizal, like a mushroom network, fungus underground.
Yeah, the fungus nine,
We are
yeah.
so deeply interconnected that I mean, even the whole story of like Sensimilia is owed to like Americans, Dutch, and British Columbians, like up in Canada. There's so many people involved in what became the best practice, what then became what is commonplace today, came from people at the harshest times of prohibition history. You know, like Reagan and shit kicking off. We were at the height of the go-go cocaine 80s,
Yeah,
and weed people were the dirty hippies hangover of the 60s. All the bad things were because of weed. You know,
yeah,
I
oh
think
yeah.
it's and so yeah,
Oh,
it's that heritage. I think again, as
yeah.
you say, to see that legacy cemented in a social space in Barcelona is wonderful. I can't wait to spend a couple of evenings there. And Yeah, same. Got a lot of respect. I mean, shout out to Scarlett, one of their long-term sort of writers. I think she's moved on to other positions within the company and works with the Hash and Hemp Museum as well. Um, but yeah, they've always been a supporter of my work at different levels when we've run like club events. And as people will often see on this podcast, I think I've got about 17 Sensi Seed t-shirts that were given to me at one point. So yeah, do love a good fitting t-shirt and do
I
love
almost
cultural
wore mine. Somebody,
representation.
I almost wore mine, but I'm like, nah, because they're comfortable. I
Yeah,
love their
that
clothing. That's the thing is they're comfortable. They whoever makes them for them or wherever they get them made, that great job. That's definitely, yeah,
it, yeah,
but
same.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
Speaking
like
of wearing, I noticed we're both wearing our here we go. I'll have to do a little
bling bling.
uh, fling your butt. Yeah, cool. He's a great kid. Good guy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, big love and respect, lot of love and support. And again, there's something so poetic and beautiful that I love for the fact that that's a real cannabis flower, and it's an art piece that's also a statement of prohibition, because the fact that it's dripped in gold is a statement to the fact that you are in possession, but money protects you. Because it's covered in gold, they can't get the cannabis out and thus charge you for possession. So you're
Yeah,
protected by money. So it's
I
just such
know.
a poetic, beautiful fucking symbol
Yeah,
against
I
prohibition, you
wore
know?
this over to Jamaica, and oh my God, I had so many compliments on this. A lot
Mm.
of people. I get compliments on it anywhere I wear it. Actually, yeah,
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 same.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
just
have a friend, God, he has one. I mean, he has a big one like, I mean, it's his my friend Jair, Dutch Lighting Innovations. He
mm,
gifted my one friend, Adam Brook, Mr. Hashbash, that does helps run the Hashbash Cup, part of the Hashbash Cup crew and all that. One of the
mm,
main guys. He gifted him. I mean, this one, like, I mean, it's like that big. I mean, it's a
mm,
huge, big, fat nug, but it just shows you the amazing things that people do with this plant. Not just by
mm.
smoking it, they turn it into beautiful art or into clothing. I mean, this is hemp. This
Yeah.
is hemp right here. I mean, there's just so many vast things with this plant and that it does. And one thing, as I said, we talked about is how it brings people together and everything.
Hmm.
I'm sure if we start talking, like I said, we already know that there's people that we know to each other that we
Hmm.
personally know and everything. And it's like 1 degree of separation usually when
Yeah.
you meet somebody in the cannabis industry. Like people that we're doing in Ecuador, we're doing a Center World Cup and squash off. The one main guy that we're working with over there, he is friends with the guy that owns the social club that we did our first squash off in Spain. He
Hmm.
knows the moon. And
Yeah.
then Michelle knows that. It was like they went to school together. It's like, and they know each other, and it's just, and then it's through cannabis and all that too. It's amazing the network that this cannabis has created all around the world. And
Mm.
I can't wait for more countries and more states to ban, you know, come together and realize it's just a plant. It's a
Mhm.
plant that heals us mentally, spiritually, and if needed, unfortunately or fortunately, monetarily. Because unfortunately, you do need that money for the research and the studies and to prove that,
Mhm.
hey, this is a medicine. Besides being recreational and fun, it's also helping people out immensely in their lives,
Yeah.
giving them their lives back, changing their lives. People like Amelia from New Mexico, that the doctors told her that they should put a do not resuscitate on her, that she probably is not going to last that long, that if she did, she'd be in a wheelchair, never be able to walk, talk, or anything. Her mother put her foot down and said, no, I want to try CBD, THC. And first started out with Charlotte's Web. It started working a little bit, but then she went to Haley's Hope, Jason Cranford's, and now this girl is walking, talking, going to school, all the things they said she would never do.
Mhm.
She's doing this because of cannabis. So
Yeah.
because there's still a lot of people out there like saying, "Oh yeah, you're just blowing smoke up our ass and stuff." No, just shut up now. You guys got the right to smoke, okay? Quit trying
Mm.
to say it's a medicine. You got the right. No, it is a medicine. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
I know I preach sometimes, but it is when you see a small child that sit there and they told you could never walk or talk again, and see her sit there and grab the table and come around like this and give you the biggest hug of
Mm.
your life. you start crying. And that's what happened to me, because I was
Mhm.
one of the people helping introduce her to Jason Cranford that actually got her on that right path, because
Mhm.
the Charlotte's Web one was actually not working quite as well. And that right there, that happening, that moment of her doing that and recognizing me and doing that, it was just like, oh my God.
Mhm.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, man. No, don't doubt it. Don't doubt it. It's yeah, I've been fortunate, and I guess in some other ways unfortunate to help quite a few, most often cancer patients, and it's elating when you get a victory, and it's soul destroying when you know face defeat.
Yeah.
But everyone that we helped as part of the club in the early days, every single one of their relatives that then contacted us after the fact, or the individuals before they passed, told us that the life that they had, what little was left, was better because of it.
Yeah.
It's like I say, I think the issue that we've got at the minute in society is I think we're grappling with it in a weird way. It very much feels like we are sailors on the high seas and we're all getting scurvy, and this is all cancer, autoimmune, all these other things. And everyone's like, what the hell's going on? And we suddenly discover, oh, vitamin C in oranges. And rather than us encouraging, you know, oranges to be grown and people to have vitamin C and drink orange juice and other citrus fruits, etc., the bunch of greedy doctors go, oh, let's make medical oranges. All oranges are now medical, and we're only in charge of growing oranges, and you can't be trusted to grow your own oranges. The oranges you grow at home will never be medicine. And I feel that's where we're at, is that all of these incidences, there's a few doctors now and a few academics that are really starting to, you know, draw attention to this concept of chronic endocannabinoid deficiency syndrome, and it being
Mm.
like a branch for Crohn's, for MS, for fibromyalgia, for all of these different things. And again, the mechanism we're seeing with like apoptosis and cell destruction in cancer, there is this thing of protective quality. There is this anti-canceral mechanism within sort of an interplay between THC, CBD. Like the studies are now starting to obviously look at other cannabinoids and other branch structures that come from cannabis. And so there is a massive amount of promise and interest, as you say, but that it's been kind of done within the capture of this pharmaceutical industrial
Yeah,
complex.
they're doing it
And
where they're thinking about this, and
yeah,
they're not thinking about this
exactly. So
person.
it's
And
gone from being the
that's
yeah,
yeah,
so it's gone from being they were like, no, we can't help you, to oh, it's not profitable for us to
yeah,
help you. And they, instead of us going, well, okay, I can grow all this weed at home for next to nothing and make my own feco. And they're like, ah, if you do that, we'll put you in prison. Like it's yeah, it's that
like
yeah,
juggling. Yeah,
yeah, and it's that's what it feels like, that kind of intention is flooding into sort of rec areas and this whole legalization movement, that they paint it as, you know, Bob Marley and Pete Tosh and, you know, legalize it, and it's not liberty and liberation for the individual consumers historically or current. It's about no, no, no. We want to create a new legal market for new consumers who will only ever consume our products.
yeah,
And it just it's this betrayal of the legacy. And this is where I think events like yourself and individuals like yourself, that for all you're forced into different areas around the world and whatever, it's you're showcasing a lineage, a direct line of history from the implementation of prohibition in like the Marushes in like the 1830s, all the way to our future of liberty and liberation from prohibition. And they stand as little bastions in an ocean where everyone can congregate, like you say, and be like, oh, this is freedom, lads. This is it. And then we go back into that wider world, and that like ego, that power of the establishment is just trying to ink in and take us. And it feels like a lot of people have relaxed and like the war's over. And in some ways we've won some good battles, agreed. But if we lay down our weapons now,
yeah.
we'll wake up tomorrow and we'll be fucking surrounded.
Yeah. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It's great that
Mm,
this thing's happening, but now they also, like you said, even with the medical part, these big corporations that coming in and taking over and pushing out the people that sit there and started this. You know, our legacy people that have been growing this cannabis and providing it to patients and to people for 20 years or so now in California, Michigan, all these states are sitting there now being pushed out by these big money company corporations, and then you got these huge grows, and not all the, and I'm not saying all these companies are bad, but some of them are. There are some good companies out there that really take good.
mm,
I've been, I went and toured Ford, but a lot of these are they're just about, it's coming to product. It's not the
mm,
passion and the what you were, I want to say, Yeah, it's just mostly it's not the passion's not there, you know,
It's like it's
and the
been
trueness, the lineages, the trueness, everything. It shows through in the cannabis.
it's
It's hard to explain, but you know
yeah,
what I mean. It just
yeah, I think it's inauthentic, I think is a good way to describe it. It looks the part. It looks like weed. It smells like weed. They've packaged it like weed. They've grown it like weed.
there you go.
But it's somehow we look at it and go, that isn't us. But then you go to your mate and he's like, dude, look what I pulled out of the loft. And you're like, yes, here's all my money. You know, the fry
Yeah,
meme, shut up and take my money. I want
yeah.
all of, you know what I mean? Because it's grown with passion and love, and he'll nerdily for 3 hours tell you, yeah, I did this to it, then I did this, I added this and this. And whereas the big boys are like, I'm trying to figure out at the minute how to get the information about what is in my prescription medication in the UK. They won't tell me what it's grown with,
Oh no.
what chemicals, what components, and it's like, how is that then medicine when the organic product that I produce myself isn't? Yet you can grow it with whatever you want, put it in a fancy package, and say, oh, it's EU GMP. This is a good manufactured product. It meets our standards. And then you open it and look at it and go, that's dead cannabis.
Yeah, yeah. Whose standards? You know, whose standards are you going by? Who's setting these standards as well? Oh, the people that are
100%.
paying you, the people that
Yeah.
are paying the money. They're the ones that set to say, yeah. And it's sad. I mean, that's the thing about the good, the bad, and ugly. And we've come so far now that we can freely smoke it and everything without getting arrested. But then now, and we have to grow it ourselves because a lot of these places the quality's going down. You know, unless you know how to grow it yourself or know the grower you're getting it from. You know, I personally like. I mean,
Mhm.
there, as I said, there is some places out there, and some places are doing it well, but they're going to be pushed out eventually because
Mhm.
as I said, it's all turned into a product, mass quantity. There's no love. There's no really, really putting their passion into it, and no, I
Yeah.
personally think it seems like even watching, and it's not myself, or even watching someone else smoke cannabis for the first time or so, it seems like they don't seem to stay high as long as like remember when
Mhm.
we first smoked cannabis? God damn, you smoked 2 puffs and phew, you were fucking lit.
Yeah.
You were lit for a while.
Mhm.
You were high. I do it now. 10 minutes later, I need to do it now. I got
Mhm.
my effects on. I know they talk about tolerance, but I also think because also they're getting back to they're not doing the old land races and stuff, and they're keep boofifying and adding all these different flavors and terps and all that, which are great. But some things you got to get
Yeah.
back to the roots, back to the old
Yeah.
school lineage.
Mhm.
And so I think part of that is also with these big companies coming in, the highs going down, the quality of the high, the length of the high, all that stuff. I think
But
is
yeah.
changing as well. It's not
Yeah.
like it used to be back in the day when we first started smoking, or when I first started smoking. I believe,
Mhm.
and I think that's not just because my tolerance has changed. I mean,
No,
some, but it's I. What
you,
do you think?
no, agree entirely, and it's without tooting my own horn. It's why I always feel I get most high off my own products. There are
Yeah,
a couple of in-house genetics that I've got that I know, yes, there's a placebo effect and whatever else, but there's a few things that I've specifically kind of worked on and hunted that is always going to continue because that's my end of day without fail. I get this far down a blunt, and I'm like, oh shit. All right,
yeah,
I'm in bed mode. Nothing else happens. Once I smoke this, the world leaves me alone. And then I've got another one that's very much oh God, hello, let's get to work. Anything else can be anything in the middle, but as long as I've got them too. Whereas then if
yeah.
I find with other, it's the middle high. It's only the middle high, and it feels like it's only a cannabinoid focused high. It's not that synergy of like your terpenes, your flavonoids, and these whole new like what are we calling them, like volatile sulfate compounds is one of the things we're looking at. And I think that's fresh cannabis. Like anyone will tell you, you obviously know with squash off and whatnot, and obviously with people doing like cold press and stuff like this, and like fresh freezing extraction and stuff. The fresher the flower, the flip, it's like it's moreish. You start drooling
We
because of how it's just so
we
rich.
We did a flash frozen, basically squash off in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with Kirkland Magazine, and they brought it in ice chests with dry ice and stuff. We put it right in the refrigerator. There, it did not come out until it was ready to be examined, squashed, all that. And man, the flavor from that, you could just tell the freshness of it. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
so fresh, just flavor of it. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I love doing my squash shop too. I mean, some people nowadays kind of snub up, oh, flower rosin. But hey, if you don't squash it, if you don't put it up on a microscope and look at trichomes and do all that stuff and squash and see how the yield and how it comes out, how
Mhm.
else are you going to know what it's going to look like when you wash it or make
Yeah.
it into bubble ice, flash freeze it?
Yeah.
If you know it's going to do well squashing
Mhm.
just by its flower form, you know, if you run, make it into bubble ice next time, flash freeze it, make it into bubble ice, and then do that, you know,
Mhm.
you're going to get a high good quality because you've already gotten it scored through flower. I
Yeah.
mean, that's my opinion.
No, I
Yeah.
agree, and I think this is why the community and culture led and focused cups and events like yourselves are so important, because it's like an education open source space, but it's best practice. The best product wins. You don't buy the favor and whatever. If somebody goes and goes, "Oh, I did this," and like again, like a nerd, and I say that with love. They'll like nerdly be like, "I did this, this, and this," and other people are like, "Oh my God, I want to." Do you know what I mean? There's a passion, and we all get huddle, and it's and we all meet from around the world. Like I said, and we go back to our little laboratories and our little spaces, and we all learn off in our own little dimensions, and then we come back together through these events, and we share, and we keep this like esoteric knowledge and these, like I said, best practice amongst ourselves, but so it elevates the whole culture and
Yeah.
products. And this is how we've gone from
Yeah.
like titanium dab nails and fucking red hot nails. You know, we've evolved because of the
to,
culture,
to
not because
this,
of the industry per
to the
se.
tip devices. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing. No, and that's one of the reasons why I also created Squash Shop, because back in the day, Soma, Ben Dronker, Eddie Leb, Jack, there's so many people sit there and I ask them questions. They honestly give me their knowledge and stuff
Hmm.
freely. But I had to travel over there and and do all that stuff. I wanted to be able to have a panel, sit there and be able to sit there and spout that knowledge to an audience
Hmm.
right there live, where there's no, and I'll be honest with you, I came up with this idea. I approached High Times first, Matt Stain, and like, hey, let me bring some cameras into a judge's house and let me film as a judging and all, and kind of ask some questions. He's like, oh, no, 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 we can't do that, Uncle. So no, no, no. So I'm like, okay, okay. So so I just said, okay, fine. And so I talked to Rosentech because I knew Chalice was coming up, and I said, hey, I got an idea for a competition. Can I use your booth? And they're like, sure. So I did the very first one in 2017. Matt Stain came there. If anybody knows Matt Stain, man's always on his phone. He's always on his phone.
Hmm.
Had his phone down, sitting there watching. Just, I mean, he for 20 minutes watched it. I took a little break. He comes up and he goes, "Bro," he goes, "What is this, Uncle Stoner?" I'm like, "Well, this is squash off. You remember that idea I kind of approached you about? Well,
Hmm.
this is kind of what I was thinking about, but you didn't want me to do it." I said, so I kind of recorked it, made it to this. And he's like, "Oh, wow." So
Hmm.
that's why we started also doing them at High Times. I mean, people thought I was crazy. Medicinal Mike out of California. It's actually running for a government, big stoner comedian. He's running for a political office right now. But he's like, he thought I was crazy to have a competition at a competition, at an event.
Hmm.
And I'm like, bro, and I try to explain to people, well, this and I, which also explained to a lot of the big competitions, is that, well, this way people understand what the judges are doing, other judges are doing behind closed doors. When
Hmm.
they watch our competition and listen to our judges, they can sit there and say, oh, so that's what's being happened with this cup, the High Times Cup or the Blazers Cup or the Chalice Cup. So this is what they're doing there. You know,
Yeah.
so again, and yeah, that, and I love educating people because that's how I learn, on hands, by listening, looking, and everything. And so that's why I created it, where we put everything under a microscope. It is projected up there to a monitor where
Hmm.
you hear the judges critique it. The audience member, besides me asking the judge question, any audience member can sit there, hey, I have a question for this judge. Why is so such a why is this?
Hmm.
Because that's what it needs to be. You need to give that knowledge freely. We need to keep learning how to know how to learn how to grow this plant ourselves or extract it ourselves. Because yeah, too much now. These big companies are taking over, and the qualities and keep going down when it
Hmm.
eventually. And so you do need to know that knowledge, so you
Yeah.
can do it yourself. I believe.
100%. And I mean, cannabis seeds are resilient. They'll sit in the ground for 20 years.
Oh yeah.
I actually was greeted yesterday morning when I opened my blinds in the kitchen by a cannabis plant that was growing out of what is it called? Is it an avo palm? And I think it's called a big palm sort of thing I've got in the kitchen. And I've obviously at some point come across a seed on the side and just shoved it in the plant pot. And it's some then like within a week, within the last week, it's decided, oh, it's the right light cycle outside, so it's popped up a giant head. It's got this tiny little thing on it. So it's if you can know how, like, it's a weed, it will grow, but it's about, like you say, learning the tricks and the trades, the tricks and the secrets, sorry, to not then get stuck in these kind of tricks of the trade, as it were.
Yeah.
Because if I own a nutrient company, my nutrients are the best. No offense to any nutrient companies. My own
And you have to
soil,
feed
my
it all the
soil's the
time and
best.
feed it
It's
all the time. Yeah.
Exactly. So everyone that's got a vested interest, whether they will admit it or not, are going to have a bias towards that, and their data and info will do so. So it's you go with a humble heart and open ears and eyes, as you say, and you frankly learn from the masters, learn from the people who were doing this before all of these new technologies existed, because they actually understood it, and they're the ones whose work has led us to today, you know? And so again, I think the transparency that you provide is phenomenal because there are so many cups I've seen go under. There are so many cups I've seen tried to run authentically, but then they're behind closed doors in certain elements that it just the trust goes and people don't. And then when people that are winning are also sponsoring, and it gets the waters get very muddy, and people just don't respect it.
We at any time. I mean, we'll let you freely look at the score, everything. The scorecards. Plus, you hear I ask judges their score there too. We try and do everything 100% transparent. We even allow the judges. I mean, the people to enter. They get to know what their number is. They can't approach the judges while they're at any time once they know that, because we don't want them to try and influence, but we want them also to learn. We want them to know what they're doing right, pat on the back, or what they may need to do better, you know,
Mhm.
plain and simple. And so that's why, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's so, and we have had in the past, we've done it once or twice where we've had a judge, honestly, judge and enter. And it was like Soma. But
Mhm.
when his entry, but we didn't let him, of course, if you enter and you judge, you don't, back then, of course, you don't know what your number is. But
Mhm.
he even talked shit about his own entry at one time, which wasn't harsh. But he's like, yeah, he's like, it's pretty good, but as I always said, needs to go 2 more weeks, And I'm like looking at my wife, like,
Mhm.
I'm like, okay. you know. But it's
Yeah.
in it, and it's a
But
sense.
again, done that way, that's an ideal. That is an ideal because then no one's going to talk shit about their own thing. You can't. You've got that protectionist part of your ego. But like you say, to then be able to everyone have that honest critique and then also give, I think, more of an honest opinion because they're accountable for it. It's not them just sat at home randomly going, "Oh, I can't be asked doing this. I'll make up some shit." Like they have to do it, and if they say something stupid, like you said, people will hold them accountable. So it
Yeah.
means that you end up with the best people building up the best breeders and extractors to that stat. Do you know what I mean? And so it rises all ships. But as you say on the twin of that, this mass conglomerate, these interstate companies, your Curaleafs and especially your True Reliever, like what they're doing in Florida with trying to restrict like THC flower to under 10%, extracts to under 60. It's an absurdity, and it plays into what I suspiciously think of, and I've bear in mind I've been on calls all morning, so actually I'm not going to reveal who I've been on calls with, but they've ended up quite conspiratorial. They're quite high up in certain industries, so it's probably correct, but I'm still going to say conspiracy for my own legal protection. But it does seem that certain elements that were present in the UK and have held back the UK for decades, and now setting up private public partnerships with various US states. They've got a very cushy relationship with the the FDA, sorry, too many acronyms. Yeah, Food Drug Administration. Yeah, FDA.
Yeah, food, drug, and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I was talking about FSA earlier, so that's why my brain was stuck with the two acronyms. But yeah, so it does seem like there is a vested interest in, as we were alluding to earlier, kind of the medicalization of all cannabis, and there then being this token kind of novelty industry left to the side, where, like you said, it's all cardboard terps is become a common parlance, and it's like a chad's playground and it's mummy and daddy paying for them to, pretend to be a cannabis influencer when 5 years ago they were scared to smoke weed or even mention it. Do you know what I mean? It's a whitewashing, a gentrifying of what's left of the culture. They're taking, like you said, the best people. I think one of the reasons for this, why the illicit supply is so poor, is because I feel like they're headhunting at one side and taking away good growers. But I also think through the legal system, they're catching certain people and going, your gram per wattage was a bit high there, son. You considered
Yeah. Yeah.
working for us rather than spending 10 years in
Yeah.
jail. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I can see, and so we're losing, and because the new generation, they're not, people are not sharing. There's a lot of gang lifestyle, a lot of trappers, a lot of over glorification of what we did during the peak of prohibition just so we could have access. It wasn't about the cars, the money, I was gonna say bitches there, but I don't mean it in that sense. Like, but in,
Yeah.
in their parlance, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not about that lifestyle element. You're entitled to that, but you should only be entitled to that once the rest of us are free. You can't
Yeah.
get to benefit from us being criminalized because you've got a special license or you had the money to move to a space where you're safe. It's a betrayal of the people that gave you everything that you have. And I think there is a new movement emerging in various corners around of culture facing people that are starting to, like you say, have these conversations and go, look, this isn't working. We voted for the thing. They've come in and brought their billions. And what the fuck is actually happening? Taxes going incrementally up. I mean, California, I think, for all its very low numbers still, they've tripled arrests last year. I think raids quadrupled.
Yeah.
Oregon are going through the roof with their raids. I mean, they're trying to put a bill together to give you 10 years in fucking prison for growing 100 plants or more. Like, this isn't the end of prohibition. Legalization, as it states down here, it doesn't end cannabis prohibition. We
No.
have to we have to free the people first. Otherwise, those doctors are still going to sell us the medical oranges. We have the right to,
Yeah.
damn it, to make our own orange juice. So
No.
and I think that's starting to go again. And like I said, with so many votes around the world this year, I think 2024 is one of the most democratically active years in like modern democracy around the world. Thailand are likely to vote to recriminalize um, so-called recreation, but I think they're
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna do it based on words. They're basically gonna go to all the big boys and go, "You say this fucking word, and you do it with these rules, and you're fine. But if anybody says these words, we're gonna fuck you up." And I think part of it is the government wants to stop American influence. No offense to Americans out there, guys. But there's a lot of foreign money landed in Thailand and immediately went, again, no offense,
Oh,
greenhouse, but they've opened, I think, four now lounges and spaces. Like there's a lot of, and
oh,
it's not
like
representative.
the greenhouse, they have one there now,
I
greenhouse
think,
from
like I said, I
Amsterdam.
think they've opened
Yeah,
four.
4 or 5. I think
Definitely saw the third one open.
Delta 9 seeds. But his is on the outskirts, I think. No, maybe he just has a shop. And
Mm.
then I don't know. There's a few other people there.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking about trying to bring our squash up there, but now I'm thinking, well, let's wait till. But then I've talked to other people that are kind of been talking to the governor, like, oh no, don't worry, it's not going to change. But it's
well, this is
whoever's going to offer that. I mean, it's sad. Same thing
yeah.
like what you were talking about Germany. It's like, all right, Germany, because I've had already some people German reach out to me, like my friend that does the Can-Ham, Lenny Roots. Leonard, definitely should get him on the show. He'll be at Spain. He's one who does Can-Ham. He reached out to me. He goes, hey, now we can do a squash off, Uncle Stunner. Because I've been wanting to squash Germany.
Mhm.
And any place that comes legal, I would love to bring this event to.
Mhm.
And as I said, because one thing is because everybody thinks they're Michael Jordan of wheat. They think they grow the best, or they so their stuff's the best and everything. Which I applaud them. Because you have to be passionate. First thing is you have to be
100%.
passionate what you do. You have to be a talker about your shit because that shows you're passionate. That's the
Mhm.
first step in growing good cannabis and everything is being passionate about this plant
Yeah.
and the people. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Plant and people. If you're not
Yeah.
passionate about them too, I'm sorry. It's just yeah, they have to go hand in hand.
Mhm.
I believe. And
I'm
so
100%. Yeah.
yeah. I done lost my train of thought
Sorry.
on that. But oh yeah.
No, happens to me regularly on this podcast. My listeners will be very yeah used to that. Don't worry about it. But
Well,
yeah,
it's been a
it's
hectic morning. As I said, of course, I was some reason thinking 9 a.m. So I'm sitting there trying to get a hold of you at 9 a.m. The thing's spinning. I'm thinking my Wi-Fi is out because I actually do a test and it looks low. So I'm calling the cable guy. I have his personal number. He's coming over. I forgot I had a plumbers coming in to do some stuff outside. So I had plumbers outside. And so it's been one of them acting more, and they all
always.
left and all right at like 10 a.m., 10 o'clock this morning. So right when we started the show, actually, instead of 9. So it was perfect.
Yes, the
But yeah, it's one of them
universe
hectic mornings. So
conspiring.
my mind's going like this. Plus, I said we're getting ready to, taking off soon. First to Amsterdam, got to go over there first for some meetings, and then from there over to Spain to start off the week. With all of the Spannabis festivities around there, which there's a lot of great. There's so many good ones. Which ones to go to. Unfortunately, there's because there's so many. There's 2 or 3 on the same day, so people have to choose, which sucks. We have to choose which ones you're going to go to and
Yeah,
all that. So, but I hope all the ones that deserve to get good people and a lot of people at. I hope they do.
yeah,
Uh, I
yeah,
wish anybody that's doing an event, putting their heart, as long as they're putting their heart and love into their event, I hope all their events turn out great there at Spannabis,
yeah.
my
Ditto,
opinion.
yeah, ditto, man. Couldn't agree more. I think yeah, what you're saying about sort of it being that melding of people and plant. I think that's where there is an appetite. I'm not necessarily throwing my hat into the ring to be the guy that leads this circus. Again, I say that with affection. But I think there needs to be something that is beyond national. We've seen what happens when we fuck with governments and we fuck with these temporary corporations that conglomerate and become global powers. We are far more numerous than they are. We are far more powerful than they are. We have survived the worst of prohibition. We'll survive a little legalization. We will be stubborn and we will keep to ourselves and we will eventually get our victory. But I think the way we can do that is we attack the UN. Not literally. YouTube, don't fucking have a go.
Yeah, don't,
I'm
yeah,
not
don't, don't,
advocating violence. That's not what I
don't,
meant.
yeah, don't be,
No, poor use of
not
language there.
literally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not literally. But I think we need to go at the international legislations. Like if we got rid of the 61, the 71, and the 88 conventions, or at least even just the 61 to liberate the people, let the governments and corporations argue it out with the other treaties. But if we can get the people free, then like you say, we can have a Spannabis every week in every country. We don't need people to fly 6,000, 10,000 miles and run through the rigor that we have to have a little bit of freedom. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. Don't get me wrong, Barcelona, gorgeous, but we shouldn't have to. It should be in your local town. If you have the passion, you should be able to set it up in that. It needs that kind of global reach where it's organically growing simultaneously in all locations. If we wait for
yeah,
the growth to go out of one area, all it'll do is mushroom up. It won't spread. We've seen what happens with trickle down economics. We don't want trickle down legalization because all they
yeah. It
do.
needs to be a global united. The UN, yeah, it needs to be globally united at one announcement. Like, okay, boom, it's legal all over the place. And what? Hang on, real quick.
Mm. Yeah, I think that'd be the fairest way, really, is because they're doing that anyway. They're going around the world and pushing countries like Albania, Zimbabwe, Colombia, and basically being like, oh, we want to create a medical cannabis space, and they tell them all these stories and fill them with these narratives of how it's going to help with their domestic markets, and all they're doing is exploiting their labor. And all the, they're exploiting their resources so they can get cannabis down to like 10 cents, 4 cents a gram, and then they
Yeah,
sell that as medical product in markets in Europe. And the carbon footprint of it and the amount of middlemen and all the rest of it. Whereas that same person in Europe that's forced to buy their product would be arrested if they, revealed that they grew it at home. It's an absurdity that we're so detached from this. We should be first given the opportunity to participate, like free everybody up to today, as it were, then change the law so nobody joins our ranks. And there should, frankly, be two different rules. The people who today get the cannabis access to it without the criminalization, that's your one world. But the people who have faced the criminalization, faced the demonization, had their lives irreparably damaged, shortened, changed because of it, they need to be compensated in some way. That's not just convictions expunged. That's literally if you were involved in the space in the culture, then you should be standing on that merit. And again, that's where events like yourself, when people can say, "Oh, I won this award in this year, I did this in this year," that gives them a CV. That gives them an opportunity to take that into the future rather than going, "Hey, you were a criminal and you haven't done nothing for 40 years. Look at you, you did nothing." You're like, "Dude, yeah, I did this, 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 and this." So it gives a way for people to get that accreditation from the university of cannabis culture, as it were. And I think that's so important to not just breeders, but like you say, extractors. People now doing awards around best innovation in technologies and stuff like that, and media and even influencers. I don't consider myself to be one, but it's kind of the space I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's amazing all the different awards and everything that this plant and everything has created, and all the ancillary things that are around this plant, you know,
Mhm.
that are happening from the extracts you know, to the influencer awards and to the media and stuff. Because back in the day when I started out, I was that media, honestly. You can go way back in 2000. You'll see videos of me. I mean, there's some that you really have to do your homework. You'll find that I've been in back in there and stuff, and talking about this plant. Me either being interviewed or me interviewing people around the world about this plant and stuff. You know,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying I was the very first, of course. I mean, God, no,
Yeah,
I mean, just me, but I did it back then. Then
yeah.
and stuff. I mean, there's one I'd love to find um, called "Dope Smoker's Guide to Amsterdam." Something Tosh and Uncle Stoner. You know, that's me, and apparently the other people have seen it. Yeah, because I was on the phone with this one guy trying to get my TV delivered here, and I kept on saying, "Well, no, I'm not to be here on this date. I'm to be here on the date." And he goes, "Sir, what do you do for a living that you travel the world and all?" I said, "Well, I'm affectionately known as Uncle Stoner," and without missing a beat, he's like, "Oh my God, Uncle Stoner from Dope Smoker's Guide to Amsterdam." Oh, I love doing that, man. And I'm like, "What? I've never even seen this. I know about it. I know my name's there under the international movie, but I've never actually seen that one." I mean, I've seen the one on the High Chaparral one that I did where they
Mhm.
put a camera on me, they followed me around a little bit and stuff, and named me the coolest guy of Amsterdam and all that during the Cup. That was a pilot called Half Chaparral from Sweden or Switzerland. I know about that one. There's one or two other ones, but the dope smoke, I've never seen it. So it's kind of that, and I guess I'm in the front cover, which would be the back cover of some Israel magazine from back in the day, like 20 years ago when I had dreadlocks. I had a meeting with the president of the Green Party and stuff. And so it's just kind of funny how things have changed from then to now. So, how,
Mhm.
yeah, we had to keep it quiet and stuff. Even me, it was hard because people, me trying to spread this knowledge and stuff through videos and photographs. Every time I traveled, I got pulled into a room. I
Mhm.
got searched. I mean, I mean, with me being ex-military and PTSD, that was not good with me. I mean, they'd
Mhm.
come in there with guns and all that, be searching me, strip searching me, all this stuff. I wrote an article in International Canographic. It was a magazine out there back in the day. I think issue one had Bubble Man from BC Bubble Man
Mhm.
from Canada in it, and issue two was about. I wrote an article in it, but how I was the first one of the times over in Europe, was there for 5 months traveling around. I came back, and in California, they strip searched me. They went through my pockets, all this. They found a little bit of cannabis and all this stuff and lint and all this stuff. They waited up and tried to say I have an ounce. They tried to jam me up all. I mean, it was crazy to
Mhm.
their tail. I think last week I was traveling with one of my custom rigs, and it's going on another X-ray, and the guy goes like this and goes points it to everybody in line. Says, "Wow, this is a pretty cool looking piece of glass." I
Yeah.
mean, to another time where I'm running through the airport, forgot to dump out all my water, and the next thing I know, they're like, all these guys are in guns because when it went through the X-ray, it was dripping, and of course they're thinking,
Mhm.
"What the fuck?" X-ray. Of course, they open it up, swab it, and all these guys are guns, and I'm like, "Oh God, oh God." And they're like, "Okay, good to go." Closed it back up and bye.
Nice.
So there is, it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's freedom,
Mhm.
but yet then there's, as you said, there's so many things that are going right, but we as people and cannabis users and people that believe in the plant need to bond together and make sure we don't lose control
Mhm.
of the projection of how this plant should go in society for us people,
Yeah.
not the governments, not the politicians, not the pharmaceuticals people.
Mhm.
Us, not the big corporations, us. We should be the ones to be able to decide how this plant continues on. You
Yeah.
know, that's my, that's
No,
my opinion. I
yeah,
mean,
I completely agree. I think the analogy that I often draw here is this is the same as if like the government went, oh, we're going to make rules for queer people, but none of the people making the rules are queer. Like it just feels as absurd as that. That would just never happen. Like, and that's what's happening. It's they're representing us without any of us being represented. They are going,
yeah,
oh, we think you're this, so we're going to make you this. Be grateful that you have this at these limits, but if you break those limits, we're still going to fuck with you. And if you're the wrong kind of person or you piss us off, we know you've got more at home. We'll come have a knock at your door. You know,
yeah.
it's that there's still a coercive mechanism toward it. There's still freedom to be found. And I think there'll
Oh,
always be the hardcore people that go, I don't care if you're saying I can walk the streets with an ounce. I want to walk the street with 5 ounces, 10 ounces, all the ounces. Do you know what I mean? It's that I'm that absolutionist because I
yeah.
can go and out the shop and buy. It's different, obviously in different states in the US, but I can go and buy all the unlimited alcohol I want from here. I could be sat on a throne of crates and drink myself to death, and there's no regulation or restriction to that. So until it's that kind of equality,
Well,
I'm
same
not going to stop. You know?
same with traveling and stuff. I can bring alcohol with me or back from another country. It's alcohol. But if I need to travel with my medication to another country, oh fuck no. I mean legally, no, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to travel from once if I'm flying or driving, or depends what states you go through, like we
Mm.
were talking about, but definitely flying. Especially
That's
you're not allowed to bring. You're not supposed to bring that cannabis with you because it's federally. Flights are federally.
that's
So I think
mental.
that's wrong. I think this,
Mm.
since it's a medication, it should be recognized as a medication. A doctor wrote that script for me.
Mm.
Same doctor that would write one for painkillers for me,
Mm.
painkillers or whatever else tells me that I need high drug is okay. I could travel all of the world with it.
Mm.
But because it's a cannabis prescription, oh no, 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 no. Well, we believe it's a medication, but no, we don't really believe it. It's kind of like that. That's what they're trying to say. Or, well, we're let you have it legally, but yet you can't travel with it to another country.
See, now,
Well,
yeah,
that's
that's insane to me because I got in a fight with my clinic, my prescribing clinic recently, about upping my prescription so that I had enough medication to fly to Spannabis with. Because for a Brit having it as a prescription, I suppose it's Europe's different because of like the I can never pronounce the bloody thing. Shulgin agreement, I think it is, where we have like a reciprocity that each state recognizes a prescription authorized by another state within the larger territory. Granted, little old England kicked ourselves out and decided to extradite ourselves into the fucking North Sea. But we are still acknowledged under certain things. So with a letter from a Spanish consulate, I can fly through the airport with security with up to 30 grams in my little pots and they can't do shit. They're gonna let me go, and I get on the plane. I got my little pots, and I can get into Spain, and they can't stop me because I've got my travel letter and a consulate letter, which says they've got to leave me alone. They have to assume the same protected rights that I would have as if I was in the UK, and it's crazy that in the States, because I mean we don't have combustion, so if I smoke my prescription cannabis. They're saying that nullifies the prescription, so therefore I'm just smoking a street drug. But it means that as long as if I vape it, I can sit in my car and vape it and be as high as I want and drive all I want. But as soon as I smoke a blunt behind the wheel, I'm impaired and I could lose my license.
that goes back to who's writing these laws, who's educating who on the. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like they're making up the. I mean, it's like they're making assumptions like, okay, I mean, yeah, that's pretty stupid. I mean, it's
yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean,
It's
it needs
yeah,
to be universal, like you say, because you should have
yeah,
that same protection. There's no reason you
yeah,
shouldn't be able to fly out to Spain because, again, they should honor or they would honor it in the kind of sense of there is a mechanism for them to, as they do with me as a Brit. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? It's just there is, like I said, the American federal government is so separate from its 50 island nations and their states' rights, and because of I can't remember which amendment, sorry, it is of the Constitution. But because of that amendment, they have to respect that shit. And I think this whole Schedule 3, which is something I wanted to get your opinion on, I feel that's a shell game for them to put it all into one thing, and that's their
Yeah,
mates in the FDA taking control of it. So they don't have to worry about THCA flower or HHC or THCP or
I think
HH.
that's a hornet's nest right there. It's going to be kicked over, plain and simple.
Mhm.
That's what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah.
If that, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's again, it's I more Eddie Lepp.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what I look at when I see this is the people that can provide and should be supported, given tax breaks, celebrated in their community. A person that wants to give up part of their life, granted they're getting benefit from it too as well, but to then help others, that should be venerated. You should be given the same tax incentives and breaks as a church. You are a saint in your fucking
and
community.
he was a church. He was a church, and you said Eddie left, correct? Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was a church. One thing as well, and every plant that up there, he had scripts for all them plants. That when he got busted, he
Hmm.
had scripts for all of them. He was helping people that didn't have the land. He did that couldn't didn't know how to grow. Yeah, they
Yeah.
really screwed him over. 8 years in prison for over this plant and everything.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, he's one of the guys who took me under the wing. Learned a lot from him, and I got to go to the farm there. I think it was during Jack Herrera's birthday party. Actually, I know we're gonna go off on a tangent, but I don't care.
Let's do it.
No,
Let's
but it
do
was
it.
at Jack Herrera's birthday party and all that, and go up there and all that. I'm excited because it was probably maybe the third time or so meeting Jack, but it's always during high times and this and that. And he was so busy, so this is actually a time to be able to meet him and everything. So it's cool being able to come up there and all that. And at the end, they're all like, "Here, we want to give you some clones." And of course, Brandon from Dying Breeds, the one that does Ego Clash, he's, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. He's in the truck. He grabs out a tray. He hands some to Eddie. Eddie looks at him, okay, looks at him like, okay, make sure they're good. Hands them to me. And he goes, like, what are these? He goes, these are K2s. I'm like, oh, cool, cool, thanks, thanks. I put them in there, and then he gets out another tray, hands them to Jack. Jack hands them to me, and I go, "What are these, Jack?" He goes, "They're me." And I'm like, "Well, I know." I said, "What do you mean they're you?" And everybody starts laughing, and they're Jacks. I'm like, hey,
Mm.
the Jack Herrera is from Jack. So I got Jack from Jack. Trey of it,
Wow.
Trey of it, and everything. I mean, but a lot of people know that Eddie. A lot of people came and sprouted from his farm,
Mhm.
unintended, sprouted from his farm.
Mhm.
Brandon, Shiloh. There's so many, and him. Besides people that have, he they help carry on the legacy that was done on that farm. A lot of strains now have been developed that are out there because of the
Mhm.
strains that he did on that farm. Because he did, he came like me. He came over to Amsterdam and all that. Because back in the day, that's where, if you wanted good genetics, that's where you had to go. You had to go to Amsterdam. You had to go to Cincy, or you had to meet the breeder yourself and get
Mhm.
his genetics. That's why I was blessed with Milo. God rest his soul, Milo. The original UK cheese, Big Buddha.
Mhm.
He's always gift me seeds whenever I saw him and everything. So, I always love growing his cheese and other things. And all. Same thing with Soma with his
Mhm.
lavender and all that. It's just it's great, but still the energy has changed some. It's
Mhm.
still great energy and all that when we get to it,
Mhm.
and it's all because of the government and people stepping in where they don't know anything about this plant or the
Mhm.
people that are represented in the plant, and where our projection for this plant, where we really want to see it to be, and how it needs to
Yeah.
go around the world.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to kind of draw on sort of the analogy I made before, it's like here in the UK and in most European cities, I didn't actually check out much nightlife in America when I've been there because I'd quit drinking. But most spots, your gay bars are your most lively bars. If you let the gays run the culture in their culture in their space, they create good fucking spaces. They're not just representing themselves. They create a space that others want to be. Oh, their party looks better than ours. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
let's
It's
go.
yeah, think of what, again, that culture unrestrained. Imagine if they'd legalized homosexuality and it was you could be gay twice a week. You could hold your hands with a license. So, do you know if there were those kind of same draconian restrictions? Think of the limitations in art, in fashion, in entertainment, in media,
Yeah, yeah.
the limits of our culture. Imagine what our culture would then look like if we were given that same
That's a great
opportunity.
analogy, bro. That's such a great analogy. I love your analogy on that. Yeah, yeah,
Thanks,
exactly.
man.
That's funny because as you were talking about, well, a call I just had to stop is Chris Chiari. He has the only legal social lounge license in the world, right? I mean, he's put the 420, the 420hotels.com. He's doing the 420 clubs. Basically, he's going to open up hotels, small boutique hotels, every place that has a lounge where you can go in there and freely smoke if you're a guest or if you're part of a member of it. So you can go in there and freely smoke and all that and kick it with
Yeah.
like-minded people. I mean, that's that right there. See, that's cool. Of course, you had, of course, politics and this and that, and everybody's got had to get their ins and outs of it and stuff. He's been busting his ass for the last several years to get this done and all that. And so, but it's cool. But we need places like that too. Where because you can go to a bar. A lot of places have a bar there, and what happens when you have to go get a drink? A lot of times you're outside. Before it was like hiding, smoking. Now you're just out there
Mhm.
smoking a joint, but you're out there freezing because you don't have a place to smoke.
Yeah.
Well, his hotel, his has a bar here, and then a totally separate room, but a village has the smoking lounge, so you can do both and stuff.
Yeah.
He's trying to cater to both because some people, but still, there's like in Colorado when you travel there to Colorado, especially in a hotel, you buy cannabis at a dispensary and stuff. Where are you going to smoke it at? Because you're not allowed to smoke it on the street.
That
Not
was
supposed
the
to. Yeah, and so you're like, wait, you're trapped. And that's how it is wherever you travel. A lot of places,
yeah.
Airbnbs and stuff. It's hard to find Airbnbs that are smoke friendly or hotels and stuff.
Mhm.
So there is a need for social lounges, or hotels, or like the 420
Well, I
hotels, or
think
these social lounges.
100% of like it's gonna be everything. We almost we're thinking of it backwards in a way. So if we look at alcohol as a comparison, all right,
Yeah.
you're at a sporting event. All right, I'm drinking alcohol. Did they set up separate sports that were alcohol sports? No, they allowed alcohol at sports. Do you know where I'm going with this analogy?
Yeah. Yeah.
In McDonald's in France, you can get a fucking beer. In Spain, for example, where we'll be in a couple of weeks, you can just go, oh, I fancy a cerveza, walk in and grab a single beer from any one of the shops along the shop front and just fucking drink it. Do you
Walk
know what I
on the
mean?
street and drink it, and walk on
Exactly,
the street and drink it. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So it's that's where we should be looking at. That's the end of weed, where that's when I'm blessed, if I get to live a long life, your years plus the rest. I'm assuming your age there, brother. I apologize. But if I get
No,
to live that longer
I'm
life,
fifty-six.
yeah,
I'm 56. I don't look that old, do I?
oh,
I'm 56.
you've only got 2 decades on us. That's not much at all. That's not much at all. But in 2 decades, I'm still going to be fighting for that to be my reality if it isn't.
Let's hope not. Let's. Yeah, but you're probably right. But yeah, it sucks.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
it'll be
you're
incremental.
probably
It'll be
right.
incremental, little by little. But I agree, like you say, it's like I recently looked at. There's a hotel in Vegas, the Lexor, not the one with the giant point, the obelisk. It's a smaller hotel, and they've basically gone, we're cannabis friendly. And I happened to look what's happening during MJ BizCon in December, and they are like the first hotel that sold out, like the first hotel that isn't two grand a room down the strip. Do you know what I mean? Or the budgets, your mid range, they've gone straight off the bat because it's cannabis friendly for that weekend, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, people will travel if they go, oh, I need to go to this country. They would spend a premium to be in a space where, as you say, they can land, know they could probably find somebody, source something like you say, and have that sorted in house, not have to worry about the concierge smelling you or a room service finding a roach or some shit. 100%, yeah. So the more of that, the better. I know there's a couple of companies in South Africa that are working on, obviously South African facing, but they're starting to attract more people into the country. And it's wonderful to see the different countries around the world and the different subcultures, the way that's transforming. Like there's a lot in Jamaica that's happening under the table. There's a lot obviously in Thailand for all this potential of the law changing, as we said. You've still got like Christiania? No, that's it.
Christiania. Yeah.
What am I thinking of? I was in Tenerife. What I was thinking of there. It's Freetown Christiania in Denmark and spots like that. They're reported to be shut down. There is still a culture that exists there. we are everywhere because cannabis is everywhere. You know, we're a global culture, and like I said, the more we can do to kind of unify and bring ourselves together digitally, which I think is where in the modern age we face probably equal, if not more, censorship, I think, than historically 10, 15 years ago in the early days of the internet because they didn't quite know what it was. People could get away with it. You know, you had, I suppose, even at the prime of prohibition, like Cheech and Chong, you know, Dazed and Confused, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Though, you know, all these big iconic kind of movies, these big iconic like cultural statements within the media space. Whereas now, the more everywhere sort of legalizing in different pockets, we haven't had a good stoner movie in like a decade. I think
Yeah,
the last one was like Mac and Dev go to high school with Wiz Khalifa and Snoop, and that was like 2012. And then before that was Pineapple Express, like 2008.
yeah.
So it shows to me, or my view of it, that
Harold
legalization
Kumar.
doesn't
What was the
represent
last Harold
culture.
Kumar movie? What was the last Harold Kumar movie? You know, the guys. I mean, that was
Actually, that's probably
that's
more
that
recent, is it? That's got to be 20.
was it? I don't know I don't know, but
I want to say
that's maybe 9 years
2014
ago.
or
Still, that's
something.
I don't know.
They
But
did announce actually because they reunited one of the
okay.
SAG after
I would love to see
strikes.
Cheech and Chong do another movie together. You know, I have a friend in Michigan that works with Cheech. Actually, I have two friends, one in New Mexico and one in Michigan. One works with Cheech. Well, two of them work with Cheech, and one of them works with Cheech and Chong and
Mhm.
everything. And earlier you were talking about, I said, gathering and stuff. Like one of the events I'll be going to at the beginning of April as well is in Michigan, the Hash Patch Cup. They take over a whole hotel. From the minute you walk into that hotel, you can be ripping a bong, smoking a joint, doing a dab. It's the whole hotel is free, allowed to smoke. And only place you can't smoke is in your room. That's it. And as soon as they announce this, the hash patch, the rooms are available. That shit, I mean, it fills up
Mhm.
fast. Even the fact that you can just smoke in the hotel, the next door down, they had to go ahead and buy the other hotel. You can't smoke there, but you just walk. It's in the same parking lot. You
Yeah.
just walk across. But it's crazy because you can sit there and just get high all over the place. I did a video so that's doing videos for this place called Smoking Guy TV. It's Hot Box in the Wyndham Hotel. Uncle Stoner Hot Box in the Wyndham Hotel. You see me walking in, and they're doing a big old dab. You see everybody smoking in the atrium and all this stuff, and and no fights. Always just a great time. No crime. Yes, there's a little crime. You do have, unfortunately, that's one thing that our events do draw is the scammers and
Mhm.
the ripper offers, and they see that as a lot of us are passionate people. We don't pay attention, and people rip things off or just.
Mhm.
It's sad though that does happen, but most 90% of things is it's great when everybody gets together and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest events there, and they do it at a hotel. They've had a contract with this Wyndham Hotel. I don't know how many years they've been doing this now,
Mhm.
and we do a squash up there as well too. So
Mhm.
in April.
Nice, nice. It's always good to see the way the events manifest. When I visited Boston in, I'm trying to remember my years. I think it was the winter of 2018. And we ended up at the time Boston had one dispensary, and it was in that weird knuckle of Boston that's like you drive fucking 17 billion hours that way, and there's a tiny space, and that's where like the dispensary was. So we ended up driving to. Oh, my US geography is failing me now. What is it? Maine? Yeah, it's Maine up top, and Maine
Yeah.
was not legal at the time, but there's a couple of good underground growers that these guys that I was with knew. So we drove up there, we got some good bud, and then they took us to an event that was basically, yeah, it was a pub, a bar, I suppose, in the American sense. So it's the same thing in my head, but I
Yeah.
suppose different
And
connotations in my
I know what
different.
you mean. Don't worry.
I
When
know,
you
yeah,
say
yeah,
popcorn, I'm versed.
yeah,
I'm well traveled, so I do
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
pubs
and
of
it
course. Yeah.
yeah, and it had like a downstairs space. But they've done is they've taken all the chairs and pushed the chairs back, all the tables around the outside. And so at some point they then just shut during the day, closed all the curtains and shit, and they had like extractor equipment that they brought with them, and it was just like a market. And so people had like pounds on the table and signs and merch and stuff and packaged like edibles, and then there was the bar was in on the other room, so you could get a drink as well. So people were like sat rolling a joint and ordering beers, and it was just a surreal experience of people. Like, this is completely illegal. Like, yeah, we know, but like, this is it was such a small suburb of this. Even it was a small town, and it was outside of the small town. and it was just like the last street. And it was kind of like everybody knew in the town, and it brought money because people came and they spent money in areas. They'd stay in the motels to drive back with their wares, and so it was an open secret, and people were happy to promote it. And I want to see more of that, but on a grander scale, where we raise each other up out of the pit that they buried us
Yeah.
in, rather than them giving us shovels and us beating each other to death, and then them taking it, you know.
We talked
Them
about money. Yeah,
migrating it.
these events bring in a lot of money. I remember it was, I think it was the it was, I think, the first time they had a High Times Cup in Seattle. And there was
Mhm.
all kinds of cops running by on bikes and stuff. And me, I'm person walking up, so hey, so what are you guys here for? You here to harass us or what? And he flat out told me, he goes, no, he goes, we had a meeting. You guys are bringing in over $9 million to this area. They figured we want to make sure you guys had a good time,
Yeah.
and that's what the cop told me. And then from, yeah, so but money does talk, unfortunately, and of course that gets around to the pharmaceuticals and the big corporations and
Mhm.
everybody buying into this, where they're buying into it and it's diluting the product. It's diluting
Mhm.
the high. It's diluting the quality. It's taking away that energy, the trueness of it, how that land race, how it used to be. And that's
Mhm.
one thing I like is my wife and I. We've been working on some nice strains that that we consider mostly land race, from land races from Jamaica and stuff from our stay over there. We stayed in
Mhm.
Jamaica for over 5, 6 years, the last winters, and we did a lot of stuff with Cincy seeds and other strains like Crockett, some of his strains that we liked and stuff. His strawberry fields. We took
Mhm.
that. We created our Caribbean strawberry, and then we took that, and then we also created the Caribbean Ultra, and then there's a bunch of other. I mean, I had a list here somewhere actually, and it went away. I think my wife's busy doing stuff with it, but I believe that you have to keep as much as that old school lineage into these strains nowadays. Getting back to that high. I think the high lasts longer. You know, and everything, the body, and it affects your mind and your body better when
Mhm.
when it has that old school energy in it,
I
a
think
more
that
percentage. I
y-
believe.
no, 100%. I mean, firstly, on yeah, in that kind of pseudo-scientific, I always talk about this love, this other je ne sais quoi, in the indescribable, this thing that we can't quite touch on, but we all know it, we all recognize it, and we all use different words, and we all have that moment of kind of looking at each other like, I'm not crazy, but the thing, and we all go, oh, the thing, yeah, we're cool. But on the, like you say, the other side, the diversity of minor cannabinoids, minor terpenes, flavonoids, all these other components, we're creating genetic gene like dead ends. What do
Yeah.
we call them? Cul-de-sacs, where there isn't then these evolutions. Whereas before, everything would branch back in, and eventually this would go so far that way, and then someone would breed this in, and oh, that would then bring this back out. And like, there are some really incredible breeders doing amazing back
Oh
crossing
yeah.
techniques, and really looking into hunting not just landrace but like heirlooms where genetics have stabilized in an environment because they've been there for 10, 15, 20 years,
Well, that's
whatever.
like
It's
Jamaican lineage. A
yeah.
lot of people don't know, you know, Jamaica had power before New York had power, because everybody came to Jamaica from all over the world. Out of many one is what their logo is. Out of many, all them different genetics from all around the world came in there from back in the day, and
Mhm.
they've been there. So they're almost like land race. They've been growing on that island for
Mhm.
so long that almost some of these strains have their autoflower built into them, or they have,
Yeah.
they're from almost like a land race heritage because they've been there for
Mhm.
centuries.
Yeah,
And that's
that's that wonderful thing again as we start to understand more of it, that I almost think that heirlooms, other genetics that have landed through the hand of man. So where we've taken it from this Tibetan plateau many a moon ago, and we've taken it everywhere, and we've ended up with different expressions given different environments, and it's the plant itself has shown different things. Obviously, we've manipulated it and frustrated it in many senses. But yeah, there are areas where it's just wilded, and it's that adaptogen. It's somehow it's stronger, more powerful because it wasn't just like, oh, this is what I was designed for. It grows up and goes, oh, I need to, and then through selective breeding, it'll self-herm me, it'll go through cycling. As I was saying before, those seeds can fall in the ground and wait 10, 15 years and then go bang, and you'll be like, we haven't seen this in so long. And so it's there's an irony. The DEA's budget, their federal budget, I haven't looked at this in 2 years,
Yeah.
so my stats might be out of date, but the vast majority of their budget for the eradication of cannabis is what they consider like wild marijuana. And most of that is their doing. They go and find like a crop that either somebody's grown or a wild spot that's just been there. So it's escaped, even literally like someone flicking acid could lead to a hermy that leads to a thing in a chain and rewilds, the same as anything else. They then go and destroy that in their eyes, and all they do is harden the casing of the seeds through fire, create a carbon sink, and push it into the fucking ground. And then the
Yeah.
plant waits for a cycle and comes back, and they go, "Oh my God, who put all these fucking plants here?" And they destroy it, and then they come back 3 years and they go, "Oh my God, somebody put all these plants here." And they're arresting kids. They're making up
So,
their own enemies. So they're finding anybody nearby and going, "He's smoking weed. It must be his reefers. Give me your reefers."
yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
It's funny. I have a neighbor. When I first moved to my house here, of course, I go around meet my neighbors, and I go over there. Of course, I let them know, hey, I enjoy cannabis. I'm in the cannabis industry. I don't lie about who I am, what I do.
Mm.
And he's like, and I'm in his backyard, and I look and I see these nice fucking sativa. And he goes, "Yeah, they just keep up coming up every year for the last 15 years. They just pop up." Thinking, and he told me, I'm gonna go over there, Green. I'm gonna go get some of them seeds because you can imagine how fucking strong they are because they keep on popping up. But
Mhm.
it's been 15 years. He said they've been just popping up. And I went by there, last year, but I was busy, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, they're right there again.
Love
But
it.
yeah, tells you that they keep them regenerated. They have a way, take a way to survive and stuff. We had a friend working the greenhouse in Michigan, and we were making this one strain, and she put the sort of seeds in her pocket, and six of them fell out in the ground. They stayed dormant for 6 months in the cold winter there in Michigan. All this, of course, the greenhouse, it's sand, rock, clay, all this
Mm.
stuff. They all six of them, boom, popped up. I had three males, but and then we had three females, and oh man, and it's called ground pounder. The roots were coming in and out of it. I mean, just the
Mm.
Afghani influence really came out in it, the smell and everything,
Mm.
because of the sand and the clay, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Yeah, and also on how you can make a plant get back to its original, somewhat of its what it's used to or what its lineage is by
Mm.
just putting it in the right conditions of
Yeah.
where it first started out. Man, back
Yeah.
in the day, and it shows you right
Yeah.
there because that's what happened to our plant because it started out with the Jamaican lineage and some other things that came to the and boom, that
Yeah.
Afghani really came out of
Mm.
it because of
Yeah.
the clay, the sand, and all that, and it being dormant there. So
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. The analogy of then humans to cannabis plants in that sense, that as you say, the genetic isn't doing anything wrong. You need to maximize its environment, then it will give you something back. Then it
yeah,
can, like you say, can truly express itself. And it's interesting that we wouldn't think to go, there's one, you're male, that's your one life. All males do this job. You're all named Bob. You all have this
no,
haircut. You all the women sue all the haircuts. That would just never fucking work. Yet it feels like those I hate saying like they, but the powers that be that we've kind of alluded to, these corporate powers, these conglomerates, they're seeking to, from my estimation, from all these patents and everything, they're trying to get down to single compound, single use. So they
yeah,
don't want to open up all of these expressions of a plant that gives you 500 compounds. They want to go, no, 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 we want that in our lab, but we want to synthesize all 500 and then
yeah,
sell
yeah,
them one supplement at a time. Do you know what I mean? That's
yeah,
what they
yeah, yeah.
want. That's what it
Exactly.
feels like. It's
And that's yeah, you're right. It's going to that. It's if we allow it, that's where it's going to go in another 20 years or so or
Mm.
less. It's going to be where all this cannabis is going to be synthesized and stuff because they're yeah
Yeah.
because of that
And I've got
reason.
nothing against anyone that wants like cannabis pill. You take like your multivitamin daily thing.
Yeah,
I've got no that
nothing.
should exist. But all I want for anyone that is ever going to interact with cannabis to recognize is your right to get the access that you want shouldn't be predicated on me not being able to express myself with this plant, because then you are exploiting my suffering, my vilification, my demonization, the limitations placed on my life, so that you can go, oh, this is medicine, or oh, my back now. Actually, I do think marijuana, it's not that bad. That kind of
Yeah.
attitude that you see from these people, like, or again, I'm gonna name drop him because fuck him. Bill Blair in Canada, former cop, really fucking like cannabis drugs, and then he's like, "Oh, I've invested in a cannabis company. They're going to change the law nationally." I think weed is pretty good and it's medicine and like fuck you, Bill. Like fuck, like come on, you don't get to do that. You get to say sorry to us and get out of our way. You don't get
Yeah,
to
exactly.
dictate the next bit of suffering or misery. We get to dictate our own suffering and misery. Do you know what I mean? I'm joking, obviously, but we should have that autonomy of our lives. It's because it is our lives. It's we grow weed, we consume weed, we care about weed, and we're gonna fucking fight to protect it no matter what. So you may as well listen to us now before you piss away all our tax money, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's so many ways to consume this and stuff. It's not just smoking it, eating it. I mean, it's a food, it's a clothing, it's a medicine, it's a smoke, it's a vape, it's a liquid. It's
It's
alcohol now. They even have it infused with
yeah.
alcohol. Hell,
With
I've even had it. They have DMT and THC
mm,
they're mixed together. I've seen, tried
that
anyway.
that sounds very interesting. I am definitely down for trying that one.
Yeah, it
But
was a DMT and THCP, and a few people have had
yeah,
stuff.
like you say, and that's still only chipping into
For
it.
therapy, it's a therapy. They called it a therapy pen.
Nice. I like that. I like that. It's yeah,
Therapy pen.
yeah, it's sitting down with yourself for what feels like a couple of years and having that conversation. No, I think that's yeah, good tool. I have tried quite a few of the DMT extract carts and do break quite a few of them.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's interesting that we don't have this kind of I don't know this automatic assumption that of course you should be allowed to do that. Like nobody dictates your food. You know,
yeah.
for like McDonald's is one of the most ubiquitous restaurants in the world. Actually, I think Subway. I looked at this recently. I think Subway have a few more than McDonald's locations.
Oh wow.
On the last global figures I looked, which means like Subway are a killer brand. Oh, actually, wait, was that global or UK? I think that might have been UK only, so actually don't quote me on that one.
Okay.
But yeah, the size of these corporations, and whatever, you can go and eat that, and we know the consequences of that. But then other food exists, and they are going to create a system where that is, like I said, it's cardboard terps, it's cheap product,
Yeah,
and then
they're only going to
you're
give you
paying
one
for the
choice, one
adverts, you're paying for
selection.
the market, yeah, and it's or they're literally still holding on to this indica sativa in a very old like misinformative
Yeah.
capacity for them to upsell products, and it's
It's going to be one choice, one selection, packaged in looking like multiple choices, multiple selections, but actually, when it comes down to it, no,
yeah.
it's just going to be, yeah, it's going to be the same, just packaged differently, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, and it's sad how that's going to happen and stuff because we need to have and I'm worried about me, and especially I was getting, doing being breeders and stuff, doing breeding and stuff. When is the government going to all of a sudden step in and say, okay, you guys can't, none of you seed companies, Cincy Seeds, DNA Seeds,
Mhm.
none of them, James Law, none of you guys can do seeds anymore. Tower
Mhm.
Genetics, you guys can't do seeds anymore. You can't do any breeding projects anymore because and the natural development of this plant, yes, it needs to keep on developing as a human race, our bodies change. This
Mhm.
plant suits our body. So yes, it does need to keep changing, but naturally with us doing it, not in a lab with them tweaking it the wrong
Mhm.
way that it shouldn't be. It needs to be naturally developed through
But
us and
it's
through our genetics and stuff.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
like me. I've always when we do our breeding projects, I've always sit there. I look and I pheno hunt the best male, and I
Mhm.
sit there and pheno hunt the best female. A lot of people back in the day, they just got, they didn't care. Just grabbed whatever male, and of course they pheno hunted the female, but they didn't care what male they put on there. They just
Mhm.
pollinate. No, you have to, especially with the DNA, how things change and stuff. Is did the DNA and structure of this plant and stuff? You need to fit, especially if you want it to go in the right direction. Naturally, you have to
Mhm.
select the right male
Mhm.
for that and the right female to bring them together.
Mhm.
And these pharmaceuticals and big companies, they're not going to be doing that. Where it's centered, yeah,
There's an art and a science where some breeders will go, why did you cross that? I don't know, I just fucking wanted to. Whereas most of these labs and whatever, they're going, the data from our AI says that if we cross number 764 with clone 552, that'll give it like it's again, it's soulless. All that's going to return is soulless. The product, there's something else within it. It's in the same with food. Food tastes better when you make it yourself. Doesn't matter what it is, and it's because
Or if
like
you have a friend or a chef that you know make it for you, you see
yeah,
someone
there's
make it for you,
and you
you
see
know,
the
or you make
experience
it
and
yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're a tourist into their experience of it. If they're putting good intention into it without sounding again too hippy dippy or whatever, because again, I'm quite hippy dippy, you know. But I truly believe that there is something else there, and love is the closest word I've got to it. That,
When someone
that
makes it, when someone makes you a meal with love, if you
yeah,
make it for someone or you make it for yourself, you're putting that love into it.
and
Yeah.
that's extra nutrition. There's something in our body that signals and responds to that. That and they're never going to be able to deal with that. It's good to hear like people like Steve D'Angelo after obviously I would say in his saying he says himself the damage he did to the industry at the level that he was at to now be like no craft is the level. It needs to be
Yep.
dispersed craft across the board. And once you get up to a certain scale, that love cannot exist. Doesn't matter how,
Yep.
oh, we've got AI lasers that are going to burn off this, and we've got predator detection fucking drones and all this other technology, proprietary stuff that I'm hearing about that people are making, like literally like drones flying over, firing at fucking pests. And it's like, we have bugs that kill bugs.
Yeah.
Like
You got praying
nature
mantises,
has
you got
all of these
ladybugs, you got,
solutions.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't want to care about that because the guys that then make the drone, they get a contract with the military as well, and they are oh, there's research development, there's money, and that's the main con that most people need to recognize is the research and development scam around the world. That's where most of these people made loads of their fucking money from COVID. Do you know what I mean? And that's
Oh
what's
yeah.
happening in cannabis space now. So they'll rally to change the rules. So we want to increase research, and we're all going, that means they're going to get 100 stoners in a room and prove that we don't stab each other, and they'll legalize it, or they'll decriminalize it for us, you know?
No.
But it's not. They're going, we want, as our government did, to use the police forces in various fucking parts of the country, raid and steal people's cannabis, and then give that to the largest cannabis pharmaceutical company in the world and let them create patented products from it.
Yeah.
Like that's the direction they want.
Yeah.
They're
Like
not.
Monsanto and all them guys, all them guys. I mean, some of these big breeders. I think I like DJ Short. He was approached. He was approached to sit there and give all the rights to all his
Mhm.
stuff. And if they did that, that any strain that had it in it, no, you wouldn't be able to grow it. You wouldn't even be able to touch it. And thank God he said
Yeah.
no. I mean, they offered him a shitload of money too. I heard, and he's like,
Mhm.
no. So
Yeah.
kudos to him.
Once that
And
floodgate
that's what's going to
opens.
happen too. Is if it's you have to protect the lineages and stuff and too, because if these companies come in and they put anything with this strain, with this lineage in and this strain in it, you can't grow anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
uh,
Proprietary
but yeah, it's
intellectual property is
and yeah,
getting crazy. It's
it's get done. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and as I said, it gets back to we wanted it to be this way, but not this way. We
Mhm.
wanted it more of us having control and it being more. I guess we were naive, maybe. I guess if you
Mhm.
can say, and we thought it would be more tranquil, more like how we got along, how we thought envisioned it be, where we can freely grow this plant if we wanted to. If someone needed to go and buy it at a dispensary, well, great, they
Mhm.
could. They're still going to get a good quality from someone that grew it with passion. Now it's a 50-50. A lot of these,
Yeah.
a
We
a lot of
like you say, I think a lot of people that supported legalization, supported the changing of the rules. I think California was an interesting spot because a lot of people under 215, when they saw Prop 64 come up, were like, no, holy shit, no, don't do this. We've got it good, but leave us how good we've got it. And I think it's becoming ever more evident that, yeah, most of the culture,
yeah,
when you look at the original Humboldt families or farmers, there was like 200 and something. There's now a handful. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's they're going to get driven out of that, and then what's going to happen is a giant corporation will set up a grow, and then they'll basically sell it like fine wine. That's what they're looking at in vineyard, and that's they want to build that off the esteem of the people that they've steamrolled, the lives that they've ruined, and they're not going to compensate them financially. And I can understand that. I wouldn't begrudge anybody that did take a paycheck. I can understand that. But in some way, you have to understand that that is lessening the fight and putting everyone else further behind. I think we have to have, as I said, that it's like global freedom movement for cannabis. We have to argue that the same plant I grow here is the same that you grow there, is the same that they grow. It's just different genetics and whatever else. It's not magically different. if it's not poison in my country, it's not poison in yours. If it's medicine in that country, it should be medicine in that one.
That's
It
in this.
it
Yeah,
should it shouldn't be separate like this. Is not how it works for a medicine, even if it's not approved, like Vicodin or whatever. If it's not approved outside of the US in many countries, all of those countries still recognize it as a medicine.
yeah,
They
exactly.
don't go
That's what I
they
said. That
and
I
yeah,
even said
that's
for you.
all we need for cannabis.
I did an interview last year with Uncle Kush right when I walked in the smack, and he goes, and I just that's the first thing I said that I talked about. It. I think it's ridiculous. I can have Vicodin, I can have any kind of crazy ass drug that actually does harm to my body. I try not to take prescription drugs, so I don't know all the
Mhm.
names. Uh, I said, and travel anywhere in the world with it. Pretty much, any of it's not illegal
Mhm.
there, as long as I have a script from a doctor, they're okay with it because it's
Yeah,
a pharmaceutical, a recognize a
yeah,
pharmaceutical drug, which means pharmaceutical companies pay big money because they have also all these other big companies and corporations are tied into it. So it's all about the money. And so,
mhm.
yeah, I'm allowed to do it, but yet, because they still haven't taken 100% control of this plant yet, that's why I still
Yeah.
can't travel with it. So it's like, okay, well, if it's, I'd rather have the latter. I'd rather not be able to travel with it and not have the governments take control of it like
Mhm.
they do with pharmaceuticals and have it be able where I can. I want it to be naturally that I can travel with this, not without these pharmaceuticals and big companies taking it, stepping it down, and taking the
Yeah,
quality down where I don't want to travel with. I'd rather travel with my stuff. I want to travel
mhm.
with my medication. You know, not the
Exactly.
stuff that you made for me in a lab, created in a lab, a strain that you created in a lab.
Yeah, I mean that's my biggest
But
fear,
that's like the only way we might be able to get that freedom is because of that. And that's why I think we can travel with pills all over the world is because, yeah, because the
Mhm.
money's there and it's been paid into these governments and stuff, and it makes money all over the world to them.
Yeah, I mean they'd argue obviously like standard medications and whatever else, but then I would counter with, well, have you been to India or China? Have you seen how many artificial
Oh,
or copyright? So what am I trying to say? Counterfeit was the word I was looking for there. Prescription medications that are made for a tenth of the price. And then when again you look at like the upselling costs of prescription medications in the US marketplace or New Zealand, arguably the two countries that allow advertisements on TV pay some of the largest bills towards drugs. Go figure. It's the same thing we're seeing with cannabis in these legalization areas that the prices end up increasing because what is California wanted? What was it? I think these numbers are pulling out my arse. I think it was 14% and like 37%. It was like the way that the taxes ended up. So there was like a state tax, then there was like a local tax, then there was a specific cannabis tax, like 6 point whatever. I'm
yeah.
messing up those numbers, but by the time you add that onto the product, plus then all the licensing and whatever, they've got to put that up, plus the rent for the built. And by the time you actually get your bit of weed that costs nothing down here to produce, you're paying here.
Yeah.
You're supplementing their inability to build an industry to provide you a product that you can do much better and cheaper at home. And until they can compete with us, they shouldn't be allowed to criminalize us out of existence. And that's what it feels like they're doing. The only reason they continue prohibition is, like you say, they haven't got good enough yet. When they get good enough to it, that they can be cheaper and mass produce it, which is what they're trying to do in the UK now. So, on some of our prescription meds, on the prescription medication for the prescription cannabis, some of the products are like £5 a gram. So people are then going, oh, well, I pay £10 a gram on the market, therefore it's half the price. So it's starting to entice some people. If they can get those margins down to £1, £2, it's going to be incredibly difficult for people to justify spending a tenner where they could be spending £2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where they're trying to go in saturation in numbers. But then, like we said, the only way to get that volume is ship product. So it's never going to represent the legacy. I mean, I know of companies in the UK that their open business model as cannabis clinics isn't to protect legacy consumers, but is to attract cannabis naive patients because they don't know about the products or the services. So they'll go, Doctor, you're amazing. And the doctor's like, oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Here, take this random old shitty ass weed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not saying it's all crap, but as a general assumption,
Uh,
over assertion.
exactly.
Mm.
No,
Uh,
it's sad how it's been like they got the micro license in Michigan and stuff, and now they're even pushing them guys out because a lot of the micro people were the ones that were growing it for patients, truly growing for patients. Now they're getting pushed, but now they got the micro license. People are getting rated on that and stuff because all of a sudden they start doing good, or they make it start people eyes start getting on them because they're getting a lot of patients or whatever, and then boom, they get rated because somebody else paying a lot of money for their other big license there with their big dispensary upset because they're not making enough
Yeah.
money. It, it's crazy how it's gotten though, and as I said,
Mhm.
but 20 years ago when I first, over 20 years ago when I first came over to Amsterdam, this is kind of where we wanted it, but not this way. We just wanted to be able to freely light up a joint, smoke it down, do whatever we want to without persecution.
I think,
Consider
yeah.
it a medication or consider it recreation. No taxes, no big pharmaceutical, big corporations and stuff getting involved with it. You know,
Yeah.
and changing it and tweaking it, and but
Mhm.
it's sad. I mean, I'm hoping that we can change it. It's the people, these kids now. I mean,
Mhm.
we did what we could. Now it's our the younger generation now that are coming up to make sure that it doesn't change. That they listen to the
Yeah.
people that are here now that changed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's
Yeah. No, 100%. It's one of the main reasons I do this project is to try and act as a bridge. Because I mean, I've been lucky enough to be in the space, I suppose, 20 years privately, 10 years very publicly. Um, and I've always been an avid supporter of cannabis since a young teenager. It gave me a sense of purpose and connection, and it's given me a way to see the world and to see the world in different ways and to meet unique and wonderful people and to really have my eyes open to what is, the human experience. And I kind of feel obligated but equally blessed to want to do that. I'm grabbing the torch from yourself and Jack and people like Vivian McPeak and that kind of generation, Eddie Lepp, and passing it through my generation who it bypassed a lot of us. They ran off and helped the politicians and the cops and the same people, and they wrote
yeah,
the bills and they betrayed the culture. And I want to just help pass that knowledge to the young ones that like you say, are going to come up and not be diverted into that corporate shit show where they go, oh sweet, I'm gonna go work for this giant conglomerate that actually last year killed 1,000 people through pills that it made. Do you know what I mean? Or like they get railroaded by that corporate sidetrack instead of going through the legacy culture. And I mean, you've said it a couple of times there. I think what the vision was for most of the older generation of people was basically the end of criminalization. It wasn't legalization. It was we're going to do what we do now, but you're not going to harm me for it. And then if I choose to do the next thing, you won't harm me for it. And it meant just going, oh, this is
yeah,
what it feels like. Yeah,
yeah,
just
but no,
stretching it
but
off and
it's like,
going like, how do I want to live?
okay, yeah, you got it. Like you're like this. Your hands, you get to stretch a little bit, then all of a sudden you're clasped. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. You're
100%.
not.
And
You don't
never,
have that freedom. It's a free illusion of freedom that they're
Mhm.
showing people just to make extra money in this market and our governments.
And they're
And
demonizing us for it. They're then saying you're either a medical patient, and no, good for you, and you're allowed special dispensation, or you're, part of the corporate cabal buying from the
you're like,
dispensary,
ooh,
supporting
yeah,
that. Yeah, but everyone else, you're drug dealers, you're criminals. You're the reason that our quarterly shares are not as high as they should be. Our profits should be 4% higher than this. And what we want to do is actually now spend part of our marketing budget. I'm not grassing on any company or situation by saying this anecdote, but use part of our marketing budget to rally against home growers in a given region, knowing that if we can restrict home growing, they have to buy from us because we know they want cannabis now. Like that kind of backhanded
well,
things, it just
like
it happens everywhere every day.
like in Colorado, at least in Colorado, I think it's in most of the states, recreational cannabis has to be tested more than medical cannabis.
Mm.
Gee, I wonder why they're setting that up that way.
Mm.
But yeah, that's how, at least in Colorado, I don't know if they've changed it, but since then, yeah, it's recreational has to be tested. Way more tests has to go through that process than the
But I mean, interesting. It's how valid are the tests? We've seen a lot of problems
Oh, yeah.
in
I
in
know.
the
Okay.
US with
Yeah,
people
yeah.
lab shopping and all the rest of it.
I wish I kicked myself in the ass because back in the day, one of the first dispensaries in California, in Colfax, California, they knew I was coming over to Europe and everything. And they're like, hey, you know, you should get a test kit if you can. Try and find a test kit. The testing is the future. And this is going 20 years ago. Of course, I met up with Eagle Bill. Eagle Bill, one of the very first creators of vaporizers. He actually created the very first vapor. I went to with him to Kabul Trading Company there in Rotterdam or somewhere, and they actually had a test kit. I bet it was so sciencey, man. I just got it, took it home with me, opened it up, and I'm like, put it aside. I kind of really wish I really would have done something there, because yeah,
Mhm.
testing is important because it's unfortunate there's pesticides and stuff like that. But nowadays, some of these test people places you can buy off. I know some places where they actually sit there and send back test results that are lower THC or lower lower scores or and all this stuff just to fuck with some dispensary is doing really well or something. The
Mhm.
test results come back because another dispensary paid them off, so now their test results are tanking with different things. Yeah, it's sad, but when people are start looking at the wrong kind of green and worshiping the wrong color, well, here in the U.S., green
Mhm.
green cannabis and the money and making money, profit over people. And
Yeah.
that's one thing this plan has always stood for. This plan has always stood for the people, I believe. And
Mhm.
with people coming in bastardizing it, changing it around, these I'm talking big corporation
Mhm.
pharmaceutical companies. That's 100% wrong. I know we keep on going around in a circle about it, talking different ways on how bad it is, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's true. It's sad but in the same sense, it's amazing that we are actually being able that this is happening, that we're actually talking about
Mhm.
this. Because
Oh yeah.
remember, as we said, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, a seed would get you prison time.
Mhm.
Lifetime prison. John Sinclair, two joints, over two joints. John Sinclair from Amsterdam Guitar. I don't know if you know about him. John Sinclair, got the White Panther Party, Free Amsterdam Radio. He wrote a book called The Guitar Army. He was in Detroit. They sent an undercover agent into his group. After a week, she asked him for two joints. Give him two joints. They arrested him. They were going to give him life for two joints. John Lennon found out about this, came down to Ann Arbor and did a big fundraiser. Him and Oko and did a big fundraiser in music, and that's how the Hash Bash started. And then I started actually is because of that. But John Lennon came down, and of course they let him out of prison and let him out, but they were going to give him life for two joints. But that's how the Hash Bash and then the Hash Bash Cup and all that stuff was created because of John Sinclair and John Lennon coming there and saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this ain't right. Life for two joints, you know."
Yeah. No,
But
I agree. We have to be grateful and celebrate.
yeah, but yeah, now it's a
But
different kind of prison they're trying to put us in. They're trying to put us into a prison of choice, of which way we consume it and which product and what company and which who we buy it from
as you
almost.
said, yeah, it's the illusion of choice. It's
Yeah,
a simulacra of freedom. And I think if we could go back and speak to, your Eddie Leps and your Jack Herrers and your many incountable number of people in various regions and countries around the world that have held this candle for cannabis during Prohibition, I think most of them would, yeah, again, they'd be happy
yeah.
that some progress has been
So,
made, but I think almost unanimously they would all go, I didn't suffer for the enemy to be in charge.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that's ultimately what's happened. It's the prohibitionists, it's the people who wrote the laws and their kids, their class, their groups of working professionals that have promulgated and promoted this the most. And I'm not then saying, pitchforks and torches and let's go burn the houses down.
yeah,
I'm just saying there has to be a sincere, genuine acknowledgement of this. I keep going to push towards this thing concept that they used in South Africa at the end of apartheid of a truth and reconciliation like committee and a series of meetings where people come together and can honestly talk about what the fuck has actually happened and actually start to heal and recognize it instead of some people coming forward and getting to paint the narrative and everyone going, oh, sure, that's what we'll say happened. It's not about that. There are too many voices, too many stories
yeah,
that are important that, if not told, will be lost. I think of just what I've seen in the UK scene in the past 20 years and how many people have died frankly being killed by the state. They're victims of prohibition. They were soldiers of fucking poor fortune. They were put in a conflict they didn't sign up to. They were born into a war against them because there
Yeah.
can't be a war against drugs because drugs don't hold guilt. No drug is illegal. It's just illegal or unlawful for you to possess it, to trade it, to make money from it without license or exception or authorization from the state. That's it. And it's we need to get that to me is the thing we want to put on the pedestal. Until that is fixed, all of this other stuff is built on somebody else's suffering. The millions you're making and you going, yeah, boys, it's a great year for us in this region. Yeah, you're making that money off the backs of others that are suffering.
I
And
think about like what would Dennis Perone, the founder of Prop 2, like you talked about
yeah.
215, going to
Mhm.
say, what would Dennis Perone, what would he think today if he sit there, saw how, I mean,
Well,
he'd be
then,
happy, but yet he'd be like, oh my God, this wasn't what I
mm.
attended. You know,
Well,
I think he'd be a little,
yeah, Dennis is an interesting one because I can't remember which art. There's a famous article that I was reading with the quote in it, and it's because it hit me really weird when I did some research on him, and it was for a comparison about sort of the struggle of queer culture and Stonewall, and sort of the intersectionality of that. Because obviously he helped a lot out with AIDS
yeah,
patients, and
because
that's
he was,
a lot where yeah
yeah,
the Prop
him,
6 talk
yeah,
came from, 215 came from was that compassionate care California Compassionate Care Act or whatever it was prior, and it all kind of merged and developed into that, and yeah, there was that intersection. And in sort of later life, I might be confusing him with somebody else, so I do apologize if I am to take this with a grain of salt. But I do feel that I remember reading that his attitude was basically all cannabis is medical, that there is no such thing as recreational use. And I think
yeah,
I agree with that in spirit,
you were
but in
talking about, yeah,
in language, we give them the tools. If it's medicine, you're not allowed to grow aspirin at home. You're not allowed to make heroin
yeah,
derived products at home. Only they can make those products. So it plays into them. And I think that's kind of where, again, like Jack's language of legalize it is old legalization. I call this phase we're in now neo legalization because it isn't what our ancestors fought for, what your generation had in mind. When you said legalize it, our generation's language for that is deschedule and decriminalize. We mean the end of you criminalizing our lives. We don't care what the corporation structure looks like. That's not
yeah,
our concern. We want you to never be able to stop us because we smell. We want you to never be able to say that you're not allowed to go here because of our fucking beliefs. Do you know what I mean? We should deserve the same protection as religious groups, as sexual minority orientated minorities. That's a bad sentence. Do you know what I'm saying? Queer protection, culture of queer protection. It's a hate crime to stand to hate on to commit I'm muddling my words terribly here, to commit violence or to discriminate against an individual of a minority group. And that's all I
yeah,
want for cannabis consumers is us to have those same base protections and rights at home so we can build our own shit. And then when we do something wrong, you treat us with the discretion like a driving ticket. You don't kick our fucking doors off at 5 in the morning. You don't shoot our pet dogs because you're intimidated in your fucking armor. You don't scare our children. You don't arrest our wives. Do you know what I mean? You don't fuck with our lives like that. You send a little letter going, "Oh, we've seen you've grown too many plants. Could you deal with the plants?" And maybe you get at worst a fine because your plant is hanging over the sidewalk. That sort of shit. That you deal with it like that, if at all, and you'll be lucky if we even take you seriously for that. But to come at us and try and go, you're allowed it, but by gun, you've got to fucking do it right. All you're going to do is put my back up. Do you know what I mean? All you're going to do is make me your adversary when you're dividing arbitrarily my community and my culture so that unless we're paying you, we're going to suffer. That's racketeering. That is
extortion,
exploitation. That's
yeah,
gangster
extortion, right?
activity. Yeah, exactly. That's not right. We shouldn't pay you to for this right. You're supposed to be there to serve us in government. So frankly, serve us. Corporations are supposed to be free to rise on whether people want to buy their products and services. Give it a free market. We'll decide what we want. We already know the people that are winning these competitions and shit. They're the ones we want at the forefront. The talented, the skillful, the passionate. We want them to scale up and be available all over the world. Yeah, we'll understand there'll be a premium rate in the same as Dom Perignon,
Yeah,
our Monet, the champagnes. You're paying a premium for the
you want
brand of it. You
craft,
can
you're
still
gonna have
get
to pay
cheap.
craft, right?
Exactly. And so that will naturally rise if the artificial scarcity and restrictions aren't applied by these corporations, but they only become billion dollar corporations because of
If,
those restrictions.
yeah.
They know they can't
It,
compete with us like for like.
it'd be great if, yeah, you go fine. You want to do that, but let us still have our freedom to do the craft, have the crafts, and have like my competition does, and have our craft
Yeah.
stuff, and all these high end growers, and yeah, let the people that want to buy from them be able to buy from them. The people
Mhm.
that want to buy from the pharmaceutical drug people or the that stuff, let them be able to do it. That's their choice. Just
Mhm.
let us keep our freedom. Don't, yeah. But as you
Yeah.
said, unfortunately, the greed in the pharmaceutical companies
Mhm.
and all these big corporations, or all these people buying into this cannabis now just because of the money, not for the people. They don't want that. They're gonna keep
Mhm.
on pushing that out, pushing out. Where pretty soon it is gonna be like that. You only have one choice: where to get this from, where to get buy your cannabis from, what strains, what, and it's all
Wait.
done. And it's not gonna
Mhm.
it's gonna take and change this plant completely around the feeling, the everything about this plant, that what it stands for
Mhm.
will be gone if it keeps
Yeah.
on going. If it keeps on going the way it is. I mean,
Mhm.
I think. And
Yeah.
but still, these scale today, as right now, I'm still allowed to travel the world and pretty much do my competition all over, which I love, and
Yeah.
that's great. So I'm happy for that, at least today. You know, thank
Yeah.
God for that.
Yeah, long may it continue, brother. And yeah, I've not meant this. I do sometimes get accused of being a bit negative or doomsy, but I think it's what we're at a crossroads. We're on a precipice, but I think that there is doom one way, but there's utopia the other. And it's not utopia by the kosh, or by the fucking bayonet. It's a literal, oh, you want to do this? All right, are you infringing on the rights of others? No. Oh, cool, then fucking do it. Do you know what I mean? It's there is a different reality at the other side of this decision. Humanity either goes to the Soma drug, as we discussed sort of last week from the Aldous Huxley Brave New World, of cannabis becoming the great pacifier of the world, and everybody consumes it, but no one's enlightened. They're created. We're all high, but like you say, none of us are. Ooh, let's overthrow the government. I'm not saying that weed'll do that per se, but it's quite an anti-establishment culture
Yeah,
as cannabis, and they're trying to make the cannabis culture pro-establishment. And it's like, dudes, oil and water don't mix. I know, obviously,
yeah,
yeah, there's people you can use techniques and whatever else, but that's still artificial. We don't want it to fucking mix. We want you to
yeah. We
have
don't
yours,
want it
and
to
we
be. We
we
don't want
want
it
us to be
artificial.
authentic. And then in 10, 15, 20 years, if naturally the Uncle Stoner fucking lounges, there's 500 of them across the world, or there's a squash off in every country, or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
that's a natural evolution, and that's where it should come. Some billionaire shouldn't go, I want 5,000 lounges, and just go, boom, there's the McDonald's. Like, no,
yeah.
fuck you. That shouldn't happen. You should have to compete fairly with everybody else
Legacy
on the
people
playing field.
Legacy people should always have first choice. I think they should have it where legacy people that have been in it, been passionate about this thing, been involved in this plant for ages, they should have first option
Mhm.
on things like that.
It should
Plain and
almost be.
simple,
It
I
should
think.
be a draft. It should be like I'm thinking of the Chappelle race draft where Wu Tang get drafted to be Chinese. And it should be like that where it's all the big investors and companies and they're billionaires, kind of like a Shark Tank thing. And then the growers of the legacy people come in, and what can happen is the none of the big investment can open a company without us being a majority shareholder. So in
Yeah,
order for them to make their money, they have to put us at the forefront and follow our instruction and do you know what I mean? So then it's honoring that culture, and they get rich, which is all they want, but then they're not crashing in the car
yeah.
off a fucking
There you
cliff
go.
because they
Let us
don't
keep
naturally
control of it. We'll
understand it.
still let you get your make your money, but let us control how it should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and but
yeah.
these corporate no, they want to make quick, fast money. They want to make big. I mean, it's I don't know.
But again, they could make they go. Do you want 10 billion over the next few years? Or do you guys want tens of trillions for the next century? Like again, cannabis as a drug, as a medication, are fucking tiny. Cannabis as a textile, still even tiny. You've got to understand the next evolution of cannabis-derived graphene is as cheap as soap water, literally. And you can from that produce fucking lithium celled batteries that are equal to or greater storage solutions than lithium cell batteries, like that next generation of shit. Then you've got graphene oxide, which again been used in like cancer treatments and all kinds of research. And the applications of these technologies derived from the humble waste of a cannabis plant that's currently being used as CBD mass biomass to make HHC and Delta 8 or whatever to get round the hemp act in various states so people can make money.
I love the
The,
TACA now from derivative from him. TACA, I love it.
the language of it again. I'm currently going under assessment, a long-term assessment for autism, and one of the things I've learned over my life is I'm stuck with language. And when I heard that, it hurts my brain every time I think about it because on one hand, genius because of the manipulation of language, but on the other, how many people are going to get fucked unless they know that nuance and can know how to exploit that in a courtroom, know how to exploit that to the officer. It feels
Yeah,
like another trap. It shouldn't be if you're in the club, you're safe. That bothers me so much because I spent a youth where I wasn't in any club, I wasn't in any group. I was only ever lost to my own self. I was excluded because of my cannabis. I now don't want to have to artificially belong to something to feel safe because of it. I want to feel as safe as I do in my home, as I do on the street, as I do in a retail space, in a restaurant. It's there should be no difference. And I think, as I said, there's more hope and optimism than ever. The closer they get to creating this global domination of legalization, the more people they turn on to cannabis. And the more people, yeah, will go and buy their products and whatever else. But after 3, 6 months, whatever, they're ringing their mate Dave again and going, "Hey, what can you get?" They're on Telegram looking at the different menus. You know what I mean? The novelty of lawful cannabis is only going to be that, a novelty. So yeah, there are states popping off billions here, billion there. Look at your overall trajectory and trend in terms of slowing. Look at your overall growth in those various regions of home growth spaces. And this is before we have this kind of like quasi gift economy like Colorado started with. That twinned with lounges and spaces as like a decentralized, decorporatized supply chain is going to knock out the dispensaries. Because once you have a social space where anybody can be in possession, you've got 100 people that each are entitled to 5 ounces, 10 ounces, whatever it is. You can't tell who's trading what or what's becoming what, and that insular supply becoming consumer to cultivated. You know what I mean? And skipping out the dispensary, and I think that they're starting to see that. I mean, you look at the MedMen model. I think they've just sacked another 14, 12 staff from their Vegas
oh, yeah.
spot, and like so many of those air quotes established brands, they're not going to have the longevity because they were set up by people not wanting the longevity. They wanted to be the
It
Mark
was the
Zuckerberg. They wanted to
fast
be
cash, fast cash,
100%. And
fast
and they
cash.
wanted they wanted the documentary made about them where it was like, yeah, I went to high school and I tried this joint once and then I was the man that saved cannabis. I see that ego game, that trap of these people, the more money they have and influence as well. It's frustrating. And they're like, yeah, and it's like, nah, man, your name might go down in the book with many other names, but your hubris needs to fucking kick in here because all you're gonna do is push the people that actually could help get this over the line out of the way. If you step into a room going, everyone's got to fucking listen to me, you're already wrong. I'm sorry, you are. You need to check your fucking ego. You might be right about a lot of things, but statistically, it is provable that you cannot be right about everything, and you cannot know everything that the other people could know. You can't have had those experiences. And this is again why these social spaces and these events, especially these international events like your own, I'm plugging you very well here. This is going well. This is going very well. Um, so important is that again people have that freedom, they have that opportunity to share, and in that space to
Yeah.
exchange ideas, to connect, and to go back to the spaces and share that, like you said, and champion evangelicalize. I think is the best word I like about this. I am very much an evangelicalist for cannabis. The plant speaks to me, so I speak to people about the plant.
You know, now, what do you think about what's going on? Talk about space and stuff, and like the lounges in Spain. You know
Mhm.
that they're kind of trying to think me, and it's worried about that. They're maybe thinking about
Yeah,
closing lounges down. They're
it's
giving them. I mean, they're giving us
yes,
the freedom, but yet they want this plant is a communal plant. A plant. We have to be. I mean, we don't have to be, but it seems like it feels better, and it's a better time when we smoke among friends or with people and
100%.
bring and congregate together. And they want to take that away
Yeah, 100%.
some
It's
places.
we look at what's happening in Holland. So they're starting an experiment now, multi-year trial, And at the same time, the mayor of Amsterdam is looking to try and get rid of tourists and block that off. You know, part of the German social club system, a main component of that is to avoid tourists. You've got to be a national for I think over 6 months before you can register for a club. You're only allowed to register for one club at a time. Yeah, Barcelona is interesting because I think it was 20. I always get screwed up when we change years. I think it was 2022 they lost a case in the God, I can't speak. Barcelona City Council ruling, which meant that the local region protection dissipated. So prior to that, there was a specific municipal license, an authority that they ran the clubs under. They're like 500 clubs in Barcelona. And then that fell onto the de facto national ruling, which meant that there was a discretion because of a court case to an individual with two plants was basically set as discretion. The clubs were then set up based on X amount of plants or whatever, so they were given a protection there. And they just changed the licensing, so they became private spaces. So before they were licensed for cannabis, because they were cannabis, now they're just private spaces that happen to supply cannabis. So I think
Yeah.
what they're going to do is they've announced 20 locations will be randomly selected for searches and observational studies to determine. I can't remember the list of the things. I'm trying to read it in my head, but I think
When are they
basically
going to
like
make this selection? No,
they
probably
haven't.
during Spannabis. Hopefully
Ex-
not during Spannabis.
this is what
Well,
again what we're trying to think of like Barcelona, the what do you call it? The sorry, my Spanish friends. What the hell is the region?
why isn't there that?
Catalonia.
It's just
The Catalonian region are pretty smart. The authority in there are like, how much money is this event generating? How many of these hotels are we selling out? How many of these people are eating? Like, so there's generally a citywide discretion for the week of cannabis, Spannabis.
smart.
The cops will still try and frisk you, and I've had cops try and get money out of me, but luckily I had no marijuana on me, so they couldn't get my money. So I was just like, search away, boys. Um, but even then, it's a 600 euro fine on the street for cannabis. But interestingly, hash is a concentrate in Spain, so that can get you a fine of up to 1,200 euros. But most of the cops, this is not to be construed with legal advice to any of my listeners, but generally, most of the cops in Spain, this is not an over assessment on me calling them criminals, will take 200 euros than having to fill in paperwork for 600 euros that they're not going to get, if you get what I'm saying, folks. I'm not advising you to do that.
Another
But it may come up as happened. Like I said, when I got searched, they were fine looking through all my stuff and like marijuana, marijuana. I'm like, because I was like, that's English, and they were like, no English, and I was like, Espanol. I'm like, no Espanol. So there's no communication between us. And then they found all the money in my wallet, and as soon as he found the money, the other guy was looking harder through my bag, being like, if we find the weed, do you know what I mean? We exchange. And then
because
as
yeah,
soon as they
yeah.
didn't find it, they literally just threw my money on the floor, threw all my products, all of my possessions on the floor, and walked away. So there is certain that might, but I think generally their policy is you're not bringing in a fucking tourist who spent bare money to come to the city because
Yeah,
as you say, if it sets that tone and
yeah.
all of a sudden the international players stop coming, and like you say, these events are growing time on time, more high-end clubs are being established. Like I said, more international brands that are wanting to establish. And I think there's going to be an adjustment period because during COVID, um, quite a few licensees, as in people that held the licenses to clubs, were basically, we call it cuckooing in the UK, based on like the cuckoo bird, where it'll like lay its eggs in another bird's type's nest. They'll raise the bird and then they'll come back and like fucking have their kid raised. Do you know what I mean? And so they were using these spaces to fabricate sales of members that didn't exist, so they could send packages of cannabis around Europe.
Oh,
And some of this was done quite violently. There was some reporting. I think is it Audio Kush? They did something on one of them, but I think very other few people in the space covered stories on it. There was some local news stories in local language media. Um, and so I think there's certain criminal elements, as we've said, anywhere in life there's criminals, but where they don't allow the good people to rise naturally, they create a space for bad people to rise artificially. And I think that's what we're seeing in these legal, air quotes legal, decriminalized, quasi-legal spaces, is the worst people are rising because the right people want the surety. They're like, no, but I want to do it right, so I'll wait. Whereas the gangster that's going, yeah, I'll fucking lie or we'll
yeah,
cheat.
pay me, and I'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's the problem, and it's discouraging, disheartening. and silencing a lot of the people who really know this fucking plant. Some of the smartest people I know in cannabis are some of the quietest, humblest. Like, oh, and you talk to them, and you're like, you know, fucking every, like, Jesus Christ. And you're like, who? How don't I know your name? Why are you not a big thing? And but yet they were, as you say, at that event at this time. They know, that there's that whole other bunch of people who weren't put on this pedestal by these kind of quasi legalizationists so they could manipulate their message. Like Jack Herer, they took only the surface skim of Jack to be able to put him on a pedestal because was revolutionary. He was
Well,
talking about revolutionizing every
I
fucking
got to spend a
industry,
lot of
and you know what I
some
mean?
good time
Like,
with him personally. So,
yeah,
yeah, he was amazing. And his son
hmm
Dan,
yeah, I've met
is
Dan a
doing
couple of
great
times.
things out there too. He's going to be in Spain as well. But
Well,
yeah, I mean,
it's in.
back real quick to Jack. One of the I said one of the first times I got to actually spend time with him, I made some bubble house out of this old school strain called Rockstar, original Rockstar, plural mongoose. This guy named Jim created. He used to work for Gypsy Nirvana. And I grew it and I made some bubble hash out of it and I carried and I brought it up to that same thing where I got the clones at. Big old pile of it and all that. And Jack tried some. He's like, damn, that's good. I'm like, thanks, Jack. Help yourself. And then someone asked me a question. I turned like this. I turned back and it was a pile like that. That pile went down to like that. I mean, not much of it. But to me, of course, that was me. This is only me being in the industry maybe 3 years or so.
Mm,
And to him to grab that much of it, that was off. That was an honor to me. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's
you know,
a testament to the quality as well. Again,
testament
it's yeah.
yeah, that I grew it correctly. Because back in the
Mhm,
day, I try and got the genetics from the people that created them, and I grew 100% organic. As I said,
mhm,
I picked the brains of all them guys. Franco, God rest his soul. Franco from Strain, awesome guy, great grower. Me and him spent a lot of time talking and stuff. I learned stuff from him, Eddie, Jack, even Ben. There's a lot of people out there, the DNA boys, all them guys I talked to back in the day. Bunch of
mhm,
them guys I listened to and I learned. And of course, I took what I learned and also incorporated what I thought might work as well, because that's how things changed. It's like, well, what
mhm,
about if I did this? Oh, hey,
mhm,
that works. And then
mhm.
now that's the new standard of how things are done or how it's done.
But
But
yeah.
that's kind of how I grew my plants there back in
Mhm.
the day. And God, as I said, it was crazy because back then it was 37.50 a pound. That's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what people were paying for cannabis flower and stuff like that. I remember today, one of my, I think it was like my third time doing growing and stuff, and I was growing stuff from Soma, from Cincy, from all the different, even from greenhouse, the Hawaiian snow. Uh, but I brought a lot. Well, I grew and then it was cup, and somehow some of that cannabis wound up there in Amsterdam. And during the award show high times, where all the cameras should have been in there, there's a picture in this Japanese magazine of me there at a table with this other Japanese guy. And I have all my flour out there at the table, and everybody's just looking at it and all that. And you know,
Mhm.
but it was because as I said, I got it straight from the grower, the breeder, the guy that created it. I knew
Mhm.
what lineage was and all that. I knew kind of how I wanted to grow it, what it was going to do and stuff. There was control to it. There was some certain
Mhm.
control to it, except for what I thought I wanted to tweak a little bit naturally, not
Yeah.
chemically or
Yeah.
by weird research and stuff.
Mhm.
So that's what I like to see, and that's what it would be great to get back to is you
Mhm.
know
Yeah,
things like that.
that's the research and development I want to see most promoted. The pharmaceutical companies and their labs and their digital models and their AI, that's all going to go and do its own shit. I wrote down their restless passion. I think that's the way I describe it as a grower. Is no matter how satisfied I am with anything, no matter how much, there's always something in you. You'll just go, oh, and your brain will go, oh, and you go, what about if this and this, and
Yep.
it's a never-ending thing, and you never. It's not that but I'm mint and raising your ego. It's you kind of trip over yourself and have to humble yourself and go, no, I am good, but I could be better, but not in a self-defeating way, in a motivating way, and like you said, in a passionate way that you end up just accruing all of this knowledge and like see there's tens of hundreds of millions if not billion fucking cannabis consumers in the world but there's still so few growers Do you know what I mean? It's the level of crime. Someone will like happily smoke and walk around with an ounce, but the idea of them growing a plant is next level. Do you know what I
Just
mean? And that's going to be a
because they don't do that
hangover for a
anymore.
lot. Yeah,
They're
that's
not
going to be
part of that. Yeah.
yeah, that's going to be a hangover for a long time for them. So we're a dying breed, and I say that as quite a young man right now. But I always, touch wood, want to be able to have that space. I want to obviously not have the worry of the fucking helicopters, sirens, police, and all the prohibition, but it's not going to stop me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's that's my connection to nature. That's my taking autonomy of my healthcare. That's me paying into my pension and my future. That's me giving me a hope of a future. That's giving me a chance to participate in a world that otherwise I would be locked out from. I can't stop participating in that space because it is who I am. You know, it's we are so interwoven, and I just want to make sure the next generation can be nerds, not learn from a book and watch the videos for the intake on training day to be work in a dispensary. I want there to always be, I learned from my mate's uncle, and to always got access to that bag seed and know that story and all of the, like I said, the esoteric stuff and all the things that, again, like part of the reason I want to do this podcast is to lock these stories somewhere so that we always have them. So when historians come back and they want to write these stories, you're like, oh, yeah, Bobby West, oh, Uncle Story, and he did this thing, yeah. And it's we have proof that each other that we existed and that what we did mattered, and it was never one of us. It was always all of us. Maybe some one of us got higher recognition or whatever else, or becomes the poster boy or whatever. But if you take one piece away, the whole house of cards that is our existence falls. And it's a house of cards not because of the nature of our spirits, but because of how fragile they fucking leave our lives, because they will not leave us alone. We need that next level of, like I said, of lawful protection that we dictate what our lives look like, what the culture is. So, as you say, it naturally, organically thrives, not to the whims of gangsters, not to the whims of politicians or prohibitionists or money men, but to the people that nerdily love this plant. That's
Amen.
give it back to
Amen.
them
Yeah.
people.
When was the first time you smoked this plant, the cannabis?
I had what we call in the UK tack or soap bar, very
Oh
low
yeah.
quality, like reformed, like imported from the Middle East into somewhere like Amsterdam in a warehouse and then repressed with like bike tire and carrier bag and God knows what. Um, and that was probably when I was about 13. So what's that, 23 years ago?
Well, I think mine was first time 8 years old. My cousin was black sheep of the family, and of course
Mm,
I was ADHD, hyperactive ADHD, and that actually something mellowed me out. And that
mm,
was not 8 years old the first time I tried it. First time I ever sold it, I was like 10. I traded it. Excuse me, traded it. I traded it. I mean, I traded it for fishing poles and stuff because
mm.
yeah, that's another story about how I got it. But yeah, so I've been trying that, and I knew it being the way I am hyperactive and everything. It settled me down. The indica just made it
Mm,
soothed me down. Even there at a young age, I knew that. But of course, because it being
mm.
illegal and everything, yeah, no, they want to try to put me on all these pills and all that stuff, and they did for a while. But luckily, I was able to get. I mean,
Yeah.
what time is it anyway? It's got.
Oh, we've gone for a while. I'll tell you what, like I didn't even get to ask you anything on my list here because we've just flowed so well in conversation. So I think
Okay, yeah,
we're
I'll,
definitely gonna have to get you back on again later on
yeah.
in the
Hopefully you
on the
enjoyed
year.
this.
Oh,
Uh,
100%. I'm definitely sure
yeah,
my guests, my audience will have as well.
I
Um,
know I got a little tongue tied at some points and stuff.
I,
I do sometimes because
as
I
it,
get I still get them thoughts. I get as I'm talking about one thing, I'm also now I got the other thing, and
it's
then,
my
and then they
audience.
collide. You know how that is.
Yeah, my audience are very much used to that. Like I said, I was re-diagnosed with ADHD a year and a half ago, and I'm very much yes self-medicating with cannabis. So it's
Same here.
always good, yeah, because it
Yeah.
flows. So we are very much in sync with it, and I think a lot of my audience that gravitate are typically neurodivergent because they need to be to follow these conversations. Bless anybody that isn't that manages to get through my ramblings each week. But we do. I think we covered some wonderful topics and issues. Um, I think, yeah, we provided good balance with positive, negative. You know, we talked about some pitfalls and some sort of problems, some potential solutions. We did, I think, some good binging up of your event, which I'll include links of below in case you are in Barca, although I do believe it's invite only. So yeah, check your inboxes if
Well,
you're.
the squash off one is going to be besides my judges and small list. Anybody first come first serve. They will charge you what because it is a social club. They'll charge you the fees, but you're now a member though. So that whole week you can come back in there, or if you come back next year, you can come there. And hey, it's Cincy Seeds Social Lounge, so you might want to come there many times
Yeah,
in the future or while you're there. So so yeah, so definitely check it out. I'm not sure how many people they can fit. I know the last year when we did it, did it at the Wizards Club, and we had a line out the door, and it was packed. He was had to turning people away. Only one person he didn't turn away. Thank God. He looked at the camera. He saw Mila, and they were about to turn away. He ran out. He's like, no, 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 no. She has to come. No, bring her in. She has to come in. Yeah.
I
Luckily, we
love.
had room for one more because there's so many capacity also.
Mhm.
No, I'm hoping everything turns out great. It should be a good squash. Like I said, I got a great list of judges, which not all of them. It'd be I've got 10 of them. Couldn't put them all on the poster. Doesn't mean one's not more valued than the other. Every single one of my judges have great experience in this cannabis, from making hash to growing it, from breeding it, growing it, and they're all passionate and skillful and knowledgeable in judging and on this. So I'm really blessed. I always get great judges.
Mhm.
I've always been blessed, and some old school legends. I've been on the panels. Frenchie, he is judge. He, God rest his soul, he judges several times before he passed away. Mila, actually, she's like the VIP. I think she, out of everybody that I've done squash off with, I think she's actually maybe done the most judging. She's judged more squash shops the most out of actually, I know I made a mistake. I said 53, but I actually think it's our 54th squash shop that'll be going on there in Spain. But what the hell? I said 53, so let's keep that 53. So our 51st one will be in Michigan, but so our 55th one will be in Michigan. So yeah, so I'm just hoping we got some good entries coming in and stuff because it's all about passion and honesty. And there's a lot of people out there passionate and growing it. And when they want to show off their flower and they want to win something, and know that they honestly won it
Yeah.
through a panel of judges, and be able to see it up there on a monitor and everything on the whole process through, which
Mhm.
is cool, and which some people don't get to do. Some people that are just now getting into the industry and stuff, or just casual smokers, they don't
Mhm.
get to see a plant from flower form to it being under the microscope, seeing the trichome, to it being in the press, being squashed into that just beautiful rosin just
Mhm.
squirting out. You know, that to them, that's like wow. You know,
Magic.
and to
Yeah.
the people that went, so we're not trying. So yeah, I mean that's why we try and film it and everything and get it out there around the world because a lot of people don't get to see our lifestyle of what we do. We're
Mhm.
used to this. We're very passionate about it, but we're used to this. But there's a lot of people that aren't and don't know this plant and this
Yeah.
lifestyle and everything. So
Yeah, it's lush. Again, you're serving as a bastion, a space for that legacy culture and tradition to be held, rather than again this new generation going, oh, TikTok says this is cannabis culture, so this is what we'll be. Do you know what I mean? It isn't cannabis culture evolved because of the representation of the people involved. This is the first time the corporations. So again, more power to you in what you're doing with these events. I'll include a link below for the fortunate few. Where can people keep up with you, sort of social media wise, etc.?
uh, well, we got of course Uncle Stoner there on IG. We got Squash Off or USA Squash Off. You type in Squash Off, it should come up, but sometimes you may have to put in USA Squash Off,
Hmm.
which actually stand not for United States of America. No, Uncle Stoner approved is what USA stands for. So that's what it stands for.
Uh,
Not the, yeah. I bet it. I know. It's like I know. I'm not one of the American guys. Oh, America, yay! Oh, it's Uncle Stoner approved, bro. So that's what the
uh,
USA stands for. So there, of course, I have an Uncle Stoner page on Facebook as well. We have a
mhm.
Squash Off page as well on Facebook, and then I have a YouTube channel, Uncle Stoner, on YouTube as
Excellent.
as
I'll
well.
include all the links below. And yeah, appreciate you taking the time. Very much looking forward to the event in a couple of weeks now. It's getting very close.
Yeah, I know it's coming
Um,
quick. It's coming quick. It's gonna be. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the biggest ones yet. I mean, there's going to be a lot of U.S. people coming to Spain. Well, actually, a lot of people from all over the world is coming to Spain, and we
Mm,
have to sit there and say thank you, Spannabis, for actually,
mhm.
the people that created this ideal back in the day, and from it blossoming from when I first came there, when there was not that many booths, and it was only to where it's at now, where there's different halls and this and that, and the amount of people that come.
It's
It's incredible
enormous.
and it's amazing. And wow, I'm at 13%. We started at 80% and I'm down to 13% on my
We've
phone. So
we've done
I
well
guess we
here.
definitely have to end that.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'll do some housekeeping again. Really appreciate your time, brother. I'll include links so people can keep up with various things. I'll obviously tag you in clips and shorts and whatnot. And I'll catch you in Spain in a couple of weeks. Safe journeys
Thank you. Hey,
and all
it
the
was
best,
a
man.
pleasure being interviewed by you, brother. Yeah, talking to you.
Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Likewise, likewise.
Peace.
Look forward to sharing a smoke and seeing you in person. So yeah, peace and love,
Oh,
brother. Take it easy. I'll let you get off.
much love.
Well, there you go, folks. That was Bobby West, aka Uncle Stoner, founder of the USA Squash Off, which is not United States of America. It is bloody hell, Uncle Stoner approved. Which yeah, good to know. I was quite curious to the branding there, so it's good that that has, I guess, yeah, scratched an itch I didn't know I was itchy with. I think that's the way we'll describe it. Moving on. Yeah, do hope you enjoyed that podcast and a bit of an insight into, I guess, more of the sort of the US system and kind of the legacy and the intersection of sort in the Venn diagram of the legacy culture and the new kind of legalization movements. And yeah, I think we talked about quite a lot of the um I think under spoke on topics, things that are often not kind of covered in that slither of Venn diagram. And yeah, to speak of someone with somebody who has obviously been around for quite a long time and worked with some of the legends in the space and continues to do so. I think it's always good to hear how those stories and how their experience translates decades later, and yeah, to fill in the pieces on this giant jigsaw puzzle of cannabis prohibition and our ultimate liberation and the cessation of our criminalization jigsaw puzzle. Each one is a piece that we're putting together that eventually will reveal to us, hopefully, a blueprint out of this shit show, because no one deserves to be criminalized, demonized, vilified, stigmatized, or any of those rhyming alliterated words for their cannabis consumption at all, ever, anywhere. It is no different to criminalizing someone for eating a cupcake, as far as I'm concerned. Do we even call them cupcakes over here? I think it is a cupcake. I don't know. I'm losing my marbles because I'm sat in this room too long by myself trying to record this fucking outro. So, without further ado, I'm gonna wrap this bitch up. Yeah, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed this. Check out the links below for Squash Off, for Uncle Stoner as well. And yeah, hopefully catch you guys out in Spain if you are out there for Spannabis in the coming weeks. Like we were talking about with Bobby there is an incredible amount of events that are going off across the city on several of the evenings, several events across several clubs. So very much worth checking your diary early, getting events in, getting guest lists, tickets bought, club, what's the word? Like signed up to clubs early so that you're not missing out on, yeah, potentially some schmoozing with the who's who of the global cannabis community, because Spannabis, if nothing else, is a good representation of the who's who, the best and the brightest. Obviously, a lot of money and a lot of various egos and whatnot, but some genuine, sincere people from different sort of sections of the legacy culture, different parts of the industry. And Spannabis, of course, itself is an enormous event that is well worth visiting at least once in one's own life. So yeah, if you really enjoyed this, folks, please do give us a like, share, a subscribe, a rating, thumbs up, whatever it is you do on whatever platform it is that you use to observe or listen to this podcast. Every interaction is greatly appreciated as I continue to try to grow the platform to get ever more ambitious guests and as we branch out into brave new frontiers of content. So yeah, please do check us out on all social media platforms at the Simpa Life. Please do check out obviously all the ships, the clips and the shorts and reels on various platforms. Check out thesimpalife.com for further information and more exclusive blogs and content. And yeah, check us out on patreon.com/Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help me keep the lights on this little project of mine. Right. You've been beautiful as always, folks. Go have a wonderful week. I will catch you next week with somebody. I don't know. It'll be awesome. You'll love it. All right. Peace and love, folks. Take it easy. Well, there you go, folks. That was Bobby West, aka Uncle Stoner. Uh, what the fuck is going on with my hair? Where's it? Am I in opposite? Is this hair? What the hell is this? Yeah, that could fuck off. Yeah, I need a haircut. It's looking bad. Whatever. These headphones actually do a lot of damage limitation. They hide quite a lot back there, so it is all fine.